And we are back with our third knockout match of the day here in SMITE Summer Masters in Season 9. And if you're like me, a very impulse type buyer, these glasses absolutely impulsively bought using my Prime membership, shipped to me the next day, 3 or 4 other options in this specific package, as well as shirts that you've seen me wearing this week. But it doesn't stop there. All the digital content you're able to get with Prime Gaming, absolutely incredible. You get free in-game content, free games, just free games, blank every month, as well as free subscriptions to your favorite streamer. So thanks again to Prime Gaming for being with us, being on my eyelids here today, and hanging out with us here in Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League. Can't wait to see what else we get later on this year. But we've got a great matchup over the Horizon Ravens versus Sages. And Miff, I thought today we would have some 2-1, some 3-game sets. Hasn't been the case just yet. We are 2-0s all the way through here this week.
Well, I think maybe we've got some 3-game sets coming up. Like this one in particular, a little bit closer in the seeding. Feel like there's some implications there. Perhaps some potential for it to go the distance, but haven't seen it just yet, have we? I'm thinking, though, King Kenneth, always a masterful performer, probably going to at least give us 3.
You think?
No, he's King Kenneth. He wins in 2.
You went the other way with it. Yeah, he's winning this one in 2 for sure. This is the battle of EU versus NA, as we have seen up to this point today. Split. 1 EU winner, 1 NA winner so far here today. Remember, we've got 2 more matchups. We've got this one over the Horizon, the Ravens versus the Sages. A little bit later on, we'll have another EU versus North America matchup. When the going gets tough here, this is when the matches get really, really tight because we've had SPL squads up against SEC squads on the first couple of days. Now we move into SCC versus SCC teams, but still 2-0s. So Sages versus Ravens, Callan Wardens versus the Aru Scorpions. If there's got to be a 3-game set in one of these two. I'm willing it into existence.
Yeah, I think it. Well, it can't be this one.
So does it have to be the last one?
I'm thinking so, man. King Kenneth gets it done quick. 2-0 or 0-2. Those are the only 2 options I think of this one.
He's carrying over his NRG days to now the SMITE Summer Masters land. Athenian Sages versus Highland Ravens. Miff predicting a 2-0 just because adapting is on the Highland Ravens, but a very talented team around him as well. And then the Callan Wardens versus Aru Scorpions. That's our final knockout match of the day. Remember, these 2 upcoming sets, both knockout games. I think those 2 teams very closely matched. I think even outside of the adapting bit, I think Wardens versus Scorpions actually might be the closer of these 2 matchups. Can't wait to see how these break down. But remember, every team this weekend playing in a 4-team bracket of their own. So 4 double elimination brackets have been going on. This team comprised of the Dragons and the Warriors from the SPL, and then, of course, the Sages and the Ravens from the SCC. Dragons and Warriors win their first round matchup. The winner of that set will be guaranteed a berth next weekend for the second week of SMITE Summer Masters. And then Sages versus Ravens. This one, a knockout match. The winner of this will face the loser of match 16. So either way, one of these SCC squads, if you want to play next weekend in our final bracket, you've got to beat an SPL team at some point. But the first hurdle is just getting over your SCC opponent. That's what the Highland Ravens and the Athenian Sages have in front of them here today. In the Sages, our North American SCC, what's the word? Representatives. That's
nice.
The word I'm going for here in this matchup. Delnyy, Dame, Jangaru, Priv, Snoopy. Very talented squad. Did not have the easiest time during all of their matchups this phase here in the North American SEC. Really started to get it going towards the end. And so this team already has some experience, Miff, with must-win matchups, especially the last couple weeks of Phase 2. But have also swapped around some players in the past. They stick Dame in the jungle. Dame has had some good land performances on jungle in the past as well. Excited to see what he can get done today.
Yeah, in the most recent land we saw from Dame, it was primary mid lane, but wasn't performing so well. Not him, but the team. And he said, well, I'm not going out like a buster. I'm not going to lose this whole event without at least taking 1 jungle match. Switches to the jungle, starts to look a whole lot better, and even nets him a permanent spot here on the Athenian Sages. So Dame has impressed me a good deal. I think his playstyle in Godpool actually a bit reminiscent of what we see from like Cyno. Loves playing things like, well, OG Cyno, not new Eset Scotty Cyno. I'm talking like the Nemesis, Daji, Kali Cyno. Likes getting aggressive early on, likes these things that scale incredibly well into the late game, really enjoys playing auto-attackers in particular, and is one that is very willing to get his hands dirty despite playing late game scalers. So keep your eyes on Dame. He's a very, very volatile player.
Remember, Dame tweeted just yesterday that, and I'll quote his tweet directly. I remember first starting to play Smite and seeing Adapting win worlds. Now I just got to fold his stuff. So I'm not directly quoting his tweet, unfortunately.
That's a paraphrase.
A paraphrase. Tragic out here. So it's a Dame throwing a little shade towards Adapting, and Gormizer standing by in the team booth with the Athenian Sages.
And the perfect segue, because I've got Dame specifically, who is willing to iterate on your tweet. You had said, as David just kind of paraphrased, like, you started out, you remember watching Adapting win worlds, now you got to beat him. What's going through your mind?
My boy Vonnie said it the best, man. Street saying he ain't the king no more, bro.
Sometimes it's that simple, man. I feel like the confidence is up. We did just learn Uller, for a lot of people, was the warm-up god. And I know a lot of, well, we got some Yamoja over here. Never mind. Hold on. That's going to be a little more fun. Snoopy, I'm coming over to you, though. You played on the big stage a ton, right? And specifically against Adapting in the past. And I know it always feels like a little bit of eclipsing. There's a ton of good guys over there. But what's the mentality for you, like, coming back into here and being on lane again against them?
I mean, it's pretty interesting. Like you said, like, it's been a while since I've played against Adapting a bunch, but it's been years.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun to play against him. And I don't want to get too, like, focused on him, too narrow-sighted, like you said. Don't want to be eclipsing people. So I'm just gonna, like, take my lane opponent, really put him in his place, and then try to, like, take over the map.
Just the Snoopy style, right? Like exactly what we're used to seeing here. The Sages seem like everything's going to be going well for them. We're going to kick it back to the desk, and then we'll be getting back into games here soon.
Appreciate it, Gormizer, and the rest of the Athenian Sages. I think smart from Snoopy to not only focus on Adapting. Yes, you always have to put some thought towards Adapting out of the jungle, but you got to focus on your lane opponent here going up against the Highland Ravens, because if you look at the Ravens and their win conditions over the course of Phase 2, Myth, Adapting joins this squad a little bit later on in Phase 2, but like Coast has been one of the couple of win conditions that this squad has had. Angry, of course, in the mid lane has played very well. I think Snoopy very smart to not look over VaporishCoast, because the dual lanes really impressed me for the Ravens as well.
VaporishCoast been playing this game for a long time now, the majority of his life, I'd say, or at least a significant portion of it, because
Honestly.
he is a young man. I actually didn't recognize him. I was talking to him in the booth, and I was thinking to myself, that's a charming, well-spoken young man. Who am I talking to right now? Because I'm so used to seeing him when he comes in, and his feet don't normally, like, reach the floor.
Right, he was so young. His first words were penta, 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 and it was against you.
Okay, well, you didn't. Come on, man.
You're right. No, he has grown up a lot playing Smite. Has had a great career up to this point. Excited to see what him and his team can get done in this matchup. And I don't think it's a bad thing for the Ravens that Coast tends to be one of their win conditions, because I always mentioned the one or two big plays that Coast will tend to make in these matchups. But playing alongside Angry, I think, has been great for VaporishCoast. It's given a little bit of pressure elsewhere on the map and sort of smoothed things out. But the Snoopy versus Coast matchup, Myth, I think very important as far as picks and bans go, and where Dame and Adapting are going to maybe feel like they need to put some more pressure.
Yeah, I am curious about the pacing of that matchup as well. I mean, VaporishCoast is a bit of an enigma as far as the European ADC standard is.
It's a .25K. Is that right?
That can't be true. This guy's killing 5 people at a time on average, man. He's got like 3 pentas this year. No shit. No.
You know what? That might be
for this.
That
event,
might be this weekend.
This event. Yeah. Like,
okay, that makes more sense.
EUSCC hadn't been looking too good until that last set. So 0-2-5. I'm sure VaporishCoast Coast can be able to improve on that.
That's this event, and they ran into the Oni Warriors. You're going up against Vote and Yoma in the duo lane. I was like, there's no chance.
If he's an 0-2-5, like, what are we? You know?
What am I?
Yeah.
I'm a 0.
Yeah, we might be in the negs.
You putting me in a SPL player booth against an actual squad? If you can go negative, I'm killing my own teammates somehow. If you can count that.
Let me join you.
Right, exactly. It's likely what's happening if I'm playing in any of these matchups. About to get into picks and bans for game number 1. And I think there are multiple ways that you can look at both of these teams, Myth. Both have their own style, but there are also individual players on both teams that I think you could focus out. We've talked a lot about Adapting and Coast and Snoopy. Is it worthwhile for either of these teams to target ban a couple of these highlight players?
I mean, I suppose so. It seems like anytime you're playing against, like, Adapting, you probably don't want to play against his Nemesis. Otherwise, I think keeping your bans largely standard, a good way to start off this set. You don't want to get caught off guard by things that are just kind of dominant in the meta. Things like Bracken, the Lancelot, both very aggressive picks. Yamoja comes to mind as well. King Arthur, sure, it goes ignored in the last set, but I think that one is an outlier and that King Arthur has got a home in the meta right now. Seems like both the Sages and the Ravens keeping it just about to that Reddit tier list.
I've got a great idea.
Okay.
Freest skin idea for the company.
All right.
So we do an esports skin for Lancelot and just call it Lancelot, capital L-A-N, and then it's just an esports skin for Lancelot.
Okay, like what would it like look like?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't gotten that. I'm not an artist.
Oh, okay.
I'm
you're
the
just,
ideas
yeah,
guy.
you're just naming it. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Call it Lancelot.
Uh-huh.
And then he's riding a controller. And he throws a controller at someone.
Okay. The SCL doesn't exist anymore.
Sure, but
And nobody's
all right,
playing on controller.
Myth, stop yucking my yum.
All right, dude. Your yum is not yucked, okay?
I
I'm yumming
appreciate
your
it.
yum.
And it works just that easy for us, Myth. Okay, Athenian Sages and the Highland Ravens well underway into picks and bans for game number 1. As Lancelot, King Arthur, Daji taken away by the Ravens. Sages take away a few power picks of their own. Baba Yaga continues to see presence here this weekend.
Coming to the light.
Baba Yaga, it just has had a whole lot of damage, not a whole lot of much else, right? I mean, the DPS is certainly there, but you have to build a composition around that god. She really is lacking in consistent CC. You might get a cripple. You might get a silence. You might get a slow, but you never can choose. So having something built around her that is just AoE, CC, the Xing Shens, things along those lines could help out a fair bit. Ravens take Eset for themselves in the first slot. Good deal of aggression early on. Some flex potential. Could go mid. Could go support. Has no matter what circle protection, which is just so good around these objectives. And then Khepri on the other side. A direct counter matchup. You want a Wing Gust? Just isn't going to work against them.
No, it won't. Khepri Cupid, that's been a very popular duo lane, not only in the SPL, but here this weekend at SMITE Summer Masters. You're getting great initiation with the Fields of Love, and then just team fight, stalling, turnaround type of potential with that Scarab
This shall
Blessing,
be a
of course.
day long remembered.
Bellona, an early lock in here, 43% win rate across 7 games, so hasn't found the most success just yet here this weekend, but feels like that style of solo laner Myth hasn't ever really been out of the meta. Started off pretty consistent this year, Amaterasu, Bellona, those types. Never fully gone away.
No, auto attacker is still pretty strong. Automization we've seen can be pretty flexible for gods like Bellona. The Ikavel Berserker Shield start. A bit different from the standard, but still certainly can find some potential against the boxing matches, especially towards that mid game. Sages actually take the Nemesis for themselves. I had thought that the Ravens would probably take it in that second pick, but instead Chernobog flanking the Bellona. Some global presence, again, flex potential, so if this Eset isn't mid and is support, could be Chernobog towards mid, potential to see a double hunter composition from the Ravens. The Sages, on the other hand, their top 3, I mean, that is so hard to yuck. I mean, I would never yuck that. It's just yum. Khepri, Cupid, a very good duo lane, whole lot of safety. Nemesis scaling into the late game, could start to strip some of that defense around these fights. I am loving the top 3 from the Sages.
Yeah, and you even mentioned taking that type of pick away from adapting. So the good old 1-2 punch, not only do you get something great for Dame, but take away one of adapting's most threatening picks. And it's a bit of a split presence from the Sages in their second wave of bans here. The Yu Huang, so still sensing a mid lane need here for the Ravens. Then, of course, adapting on the Hunbats. That has been a fallback pick for him when a couple of his top gods haven't been available. On the flip side, Ratatoskr and the Morrigan both end up getting banned out. So not overwhelming bans towards adapting in the second phase for the Sages here. Wondered if we would see that, not the case. And then a 67% win rate through 3 games on the Chulainn. A strong bit of pressure there for the Sages in the solo lane.
Yeah, the generic brand King Arthur for the Athenian Sages in that 4th slot, I think, still has good aggression, can shore up your initiation, still AoE CC, blink knockup, not bad whatsoever, holds his own in the majority of the laning phases. Not really too many bad matchups for him. I am curious, though, about Adapting's lock-in. Sometimes when his back's against the wall, Adapting locks in things like the Thor, just really falling back to one of his old favorites. Osiris, the hover as of now. Haven't had too many opportunities to see him go chop in the jungle, but it's not exactly a high execution style of play. Can really start to establish pace. could keep this Nemesis kind of locked into the jungle, just trying to farm up and try and match that jungle clear that Osiris has with the cleave auto attacks plus Golden Blade. But looking at the draft top to bottom from the Ravens, lacking in some of that standard initiation, some of the same issues we had seen from the earlier sets today. If it's not a Spirit Ball, as of now, what is it? A two-piece combo from Chernobog with the root? Is it going to be Ao Kuang going in with the ultimate? Thanatos has a whole lot of damage. That's not exactly your AoE initiation either.
Go
This
forth,
Ravens
my
draft is
children,
very,
and
very
take
high
over this
execution.
land.
There was one ban against Thanatos earlier on this weekend, and I'm pretty sure that was against Adapting. Ends up getting his pick here. Back's not against the wall just yet. I mean, yes, as far as tournament life goes, this is it. Whoever loses this set out of the tournament. Still got a little bit of leg room in this set individually, though. And the jungle matchup we were looking for, Dame said he's not the king anymore. Or maybe he was...
No, the streets said that.
Right.
Dame's simply a messenger.
Right, he's the mouthpiece for the streets. And,
That's
and,
right.
Adapting's not it anymore. And Nemesis up against Thanatos should be a fun matchup to watch, Miff. Still wanting to jump on a single target, evaporate that health bar, but very different in the ways they get that done.
Yeah, Execute could deal with that ultimate from Khepri pretty easily, but
Yeah, good point.
it's not the same as like an Achilles Execute where you can do it on reaction. You kind of need to get up into the air, and during that time while you're jumping up, well, maybe the Cupid's healing you out of execution threshold. Maybe the Hell's doing the exact same thing. So going to be difficult to find that style of play. I think more likely we see this Thanatos get aggressive early on and try and throw his weight around the entirety of the map. Similar to Osiris, should be able to outpace Nemesis in the jungle, but as far as real late game goes in the 5-on-5 engagement, this Sages draft is just so much easier to execute on. And that's a topic of conversation I love to have when the stakes in Smite are incredibly high.
Yeah.
You want something that is easy to perform, because obviously nerves are going to be up, especially in an elimination match. The Ravens have got themselves something that you need to like establish dominance with and hold on to. Whereas the Sages, I would say, even if they fall behind 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 gold, at the 30-minute mark, their team fight might just outscale enough to outweigh that.
Yeah, so it's about buying yourself breathing room, right? And game 1 of a best of 3 officially becomes the most important game, just like game 2 and a best of 5 is the most important. Giving yourself that one game advantage. Really no pushback from you on that, Miff.
I'm sorry, what?
You're not a firm believer. I thought you were an opponent of the game 2 and a best of 5 being the most important.
No, game 1's the most important.
In a best of 5.
Game 1's most important always.
That's not true.
Because you want the hot start.
In a best of 3, yes.
You're
in a
being
best
so
of 5,
dumb.
no.
You're being so dumb
In a
right
best
now.
of 3,
you
it is the
look
most important.
So ignorant.
I can't see you anymore, Miff.
What am I, John Cena?
No, I got my hater blockers on. Is that what that one Where'd he go? Oh no, he's gone. Ravens versus Sages, Miff. Somehow undercutting the tone of how important this match is. One team at the end of this best of 3 going to end up going home. How dynamic do you think this Hell pick ends up being for Jangaru out of the mid lane, up against things like Daji and other heavy CC gods? Of course, we talk a lot about the cleanse being very important. Do you think Hell is a heal bot, damage bot, can do it all? You're going to find a lot of utility in this game if you're Jangaru?
Hell does a whole lot of damage, deceptive damage in the early game. So up against Thanatos, maybe if you're able to establish a lead, you can kind of throw the weight around there. But otherwise, you're also the biggest target for this Thanatos. So I'd like to see him play safely.
EU versus NA tied up so far today. The tiebreaker between the Sages and the Ravens kicks off right now in game 1.
Thank you so much, David. Sages and Ravens going at it here. It's Dimes, it's Doug spectating. And Trelly, I have a tear in my eye that you're joining me for this one. We get to watch King Kenneth pick up this classic Thanatos. I mean, there was a reason that Thanatos and Fenrir were banned against Adapting the last time we saw him play here at SMITE Summer Masters, and now we get to watch the Adapt King pick up this classic pick.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I hope that he comes to get aggressive in the early. Doesn't have the blink, which, of course, Dame does. Dame actually looked extremely confident in that pre-game interview, so I don't think the tenure and just the rings alone on Adapting's fingers were enough to scare off the Athenian Sages. We'll have to see if play on field reflects that. Either way, when you pick something like Thanatos, I don't imagine you're going to be sitting by the wayside for very long. I imagine still wanting to get aggressive, and I think the desk highlighted it quite well. Jangaru has a target on their back, no doubt. I mean, the Hell needs to die first in these team fights. You don't want this constant wave of healing to be changing how you 5v5, as well as the Scarab's Blessing, but hey, if you're in Threshold, it's not going to matter too much when Adapting's in the sky.
This Athenian Sages, I mean, we saw the Stupid picked up, right? Now we get the Snoopid. We'll have to see if that goes even harder than the Stupid. But it just feels like the Athenian Sages drafted exactly what they were looking for with that Hell coming as the final pickup. You have delnyy on what we're apparently now officially calling Budget King Arthur in the Chulainn, right? With King Arthur being banned away. And this ever-popular Nemesis pickup here. I mean, when you're just looking at the drafts as a whole, Highland Ravens playing plenty of meta, sure, but they mentioned on the desk, Bellona not having the most success as Privative goes in on that hug bump on VaporishCoast, who takes a whole chunk of damage from that heart bomb. Just looking at the compositions as a whole, would you give the edge to the Sages, or do you think there are signs of hope here with the Ravens, especially if the early game can get going for the Thanatos?
I mean, you're going to call me crazy for saying this, but I think the Highland Ravens comp is much harder to execute on being that Thanatos, and adapting really has had some struggles this week, you know? So if he starts playing to that point that we know he can, of course, I think the Highland Ravens have a great composition, but the Athenian Sages draft is so much easier to execute on, no pun intended. It's just a lot of easier abilities. You don't have to commit too much. Priv getting extremely low and could be in some trouble.
Yeah, Priv locked down by the Spirit Ball, but guess what? Calvin gets turned it right back around on Heart Bomb through the minions, threaded perfectly by the Snoopid. Snoopy picking up first blood here. Not even 2 minutes into this game, and if there was one set, Trelly, that I looked at today's schedule and I said that one's going 3, it was going to be this one.
Yeah, I think definitely an interesting matchup either way, but that meditation that Priv picked up, I think, proves extremely useful there. Calvin popped the sprint thinking, hey, we're going to chase down this kill. Then some more health bars come through. Priv pops the med, and Snoopy able to pick up first blood and the assist going over to support. That should open up a possible purple buff invade, but Calvin's already back and ready to attempt to defend this one and has Hog in hand. So, yeah, I was going to say, if Priv and Snoopy go for this, they're definitely at least going to get the Hog out and shouldn't be able to confirm. And I think they realize that as well. Just going to go back for some lane pressure and look at their own purple buff.
Timing just a little bit too early there for the Athenian Sages. If they get that kill 30, 45 seconds later, easy purple buff avenue, but not quite. Let's talk about, you've already mentioned their name one time, Privative on this Khepri. We saw Privative pick up the Athena, which is one of their absolute prime picks. Love the Athena. They go to the Cabrakan, who's a little bit more aggressive just inherently because of the kit. Now on this Khepri, I love personally seeing Privative pick up the support style gods that can facilitate their opponent. What are your thoughts on Priv, and especially on this Khepri, as there's another engagement. Hold on for 1 second, Trelly. I'll give you your shot. As Dame double dashes on Calvin, Spirit Ball connects with 2 slice and dice, puts the support in the ground.
Yeah, so Priv gonna be getting extremely aggressive in this lane.
2 for 2.
Probably find an abduct on a Calvin, and then I imagine a second kill will come through. That's
Especially
what I would
if
have
Dame
said.
rotates,
That's
right?
what I would have said if you asked me 30
absolutely.
seconds ago.
Mentalist over here.
I'm blaming you. You were a little slow on the question, so
I held the
unfortunately,
mic a little long. It's my bad, Trells.
I couldn't show you how much clairvoyance I have, but in reality, I think you're right to highlight Privative on the supporty style of supports, not getting too aggressive, but being able to peel for the team. This is when the Athenian Sages are at their peak, when they're looking this solid, when Priv is able to. And whenever Priv's on point, it's so hard to find a kill on this team. Thus far, 2-0. Both of these kills in the duo lane for good reason. When you look at an Eset, you imagine pressure, but that's not the case at the moment. Having a little bit of trouble, as we see Dame just trying to clear waves. Hasn't quite been able to back up and pick up either the stone cutting or the golden blade. That would help out the damage immensely onto these minions, and I imagine because of that kill, Dame should be able to pick that up here shortly, but adapting hasn't backed either. This man have no fear of trying to get active, does not want to fight in the slightest. It's going to take a couple more items before we see the Thanatos trying to find some kills.
Which is kind of antithetical to the Thanatos, right? You think about the Scythe being one of the best early game abilities literally in the game, right? Like taking out opponents at levels 1, 2, 3, a half HP, especially now level 5, got that execute online so you can take opponents out at even lower HP. VaporishCoast with the up down just to escape the Cupid ultimate there. Hard Bomb connects as well. Snoopy's got this lane handled.
Yeah, Snoopy's been on point this lane. I mean,
Big time.
even losing, able to find some solo kills.
Well,
and actually 1v3 at this purple buff. It wasn't, I think he wasn't afraid of the 1v2, but once he saw the third, he's like, okay, we're cool, I'm going back. And honestly, I'm pretty excited about the amount of different Cupid skins we've been seeing, because that's something that me and Gore have always been highlighting. Like, what do these Cupid players go to as their skins? Because that changes.
Telling.
It changes what the hearts look like. You know, sometimes they're beans, sometimes they're dumplings. You never know. And this time, Snoopy just going with the little devil one, a classic in the way of Cupid's Smite skins.
Yeah, what's your take on the? Do you remember what the stupid?
The stupid, I believe, was the honey. I think he had the honey, which is always good. I think the bee one's a classic as well.
Sure. I'm on the beans one. I can't remember. It's like the chimney sweep Cupid or something like that, where it looks like a little newsboy from
he's
Victorian
like
era
Tiny
England.
Tim. Yeah, he's got the beans.
Oliver Twist type situation. That's my stance here, as the red buff is going to be cleared out by the Athenian Sages, building themselves a small lead as we haven't even approached 6 minutes yet. Just now, the clock ticking over to that 6-minute mark. 2 kills on the board for the Athenian Sages. I think no surprise that the NA Smite team is getting a little bit more active on this map. But once again, adapting. Level 7 hasn't found anything thus far, has to connect with this Thanatos. I think it's fair to say that as the game continues on, this Thana's going to fall off a little bit harder than the Nemesis.
Yeah, no doubt. I think late game certainly will be a little bit rough, but given the situation, given the fact that the Sages are up 2-0, this gold lead is not as big as it should be, and I think that's credit to the farming of the Ravens. Adapting again hasn't been too active, but he's been staying on pace and even had a level lead just a minute ago. You can take a look at that XP. It's even smaller for a reason. The Highland Ravens have been able to confirm their own farm and steal away some when necessary. It's going to start to add up. And if the Sages keep getting active, of course, it won't matter too much. It really just depends on where you are choosing these fights. As Priv just trying to decide where to actually juke out here, finally finds a path out. And there you go. Has the hearts to sustain up, as well as Jangaru. Anti-heal certainly going to need to be prioritized. Adapting already has that Brawler's beat stick for a reason. At level 12, I have to imagine Calvin's thinking about the Ankh, but then you're putting yourself in a difficult situation because you're an Eset, you're not quite as tanky as a normal Guardian would be, and you'd love to have a Beads as well.
Yeah, you got to expect the Divine Rune here from the Tiamat. You got to expect Kana to build into some kind of anti-heal as well, because as you mentioned, Jangaru providing plenty of healing off this hell, Snoopy also providing lots of heals with those hearts from the Cupid that can, as you said, take the form of dumplings or beans, or in this case, what is the
They're just like darker hearts.
Yeah,
yeah,
there you go.
They're not quite as light because he's like
Kinda
a little
like Heartbreaker.
He's like a little devil.
Yeah,
absolutely. And meditation as well from Priv. So
yeah, big time. Healing across the board for the Athenian Sages.
Yeah, so I think the fight-refight situation is something that has to be on the mind of the Ravens. If they're not going in, committing to an all-in engage off the back of, I'm assuming, an execute from adapting, they're not going to look to re-engage because you're looking at full health bars once again. That's something that the Sages are always going to be on point with, and it looks like Calvin going to take a little bit of damage.
Yoink in from Privative onto Calvin. Snoopy has made the rotation as well. It's a matter of time before those Fields of Love come out, but why even need it when Dame's around the corner, dropping that ultimate, shredding protection. Circle of Protection was used to absolutely zero effect.
Yeah, Circle of No Protection, it should have been called, as we see the Sages. I saw them group up at the Gold Fury for a second, but decided against it, and we'll just go back to their ways. They actually did just confirm the Obelisk as well, so we see that Trebuchet spawning in Snoopy's lane, as if he didn't have enough pressure up against Coast. Soon, they will be able to send that off, the Firing Rock Slinger, if they need to. If not, they could always save it for late game. It really does open up some avenues around that Fire Giant and things like that.
So talk me through Eset support here for a second. We've seen Eset support be used to incredible effect throughout the entirety of the SPL in recent times. When you're 0-3-0, some gods in particular are harder to play from behind. Is Eset support one of those gods? Is she going to provide value from her team even from a state of behind?
I am a big proponent of Eset being better in mid than support. I've always said this, and some look at me funny, some say Trelly, you're a visionary.
Not Trelly, really.
Yeah, I'm telling you, and my reason is simple. Circle of Protection becomes vastly ineffective at confirming objectives when you're not building damage. So, of course, when you have an Eset in mid, we've seen it time and time again. That is a free objective whenever it's there. Unfortunately, when you have a lot of CC in lockdown, but to your point, Calvin is 0-3, didn't start beads, will consistently be like abducted into a heart bomb, into killed until level 12 for quite some time, and that's another issue I have with this pick. Doesn't get better until you get some protections online from behind. You can't be that frontliner. You can't CC for your team as easily. Calvin gonna have his work cut out for him.
About 15 more seconds here before the Pyromancer lands on the map. The Athenian Sages have plenty of burn. Snoopy, especially on this Cupid, if possible, makes an early rotation over to the Pyromancer, drops the Heart Bomb. Plenty of burn there. Jangaru with excellent confirm on this hell. Adapting caught out here in the jungle. Dame combines with Privative to lock down the jungler for the Ravens, but an easy hovering death there for CC Immunity. Hovers right over the middle lane and slams down on the red buff.
But
Just a second away
Snoopy is
from-
on the way, and he's got Fields of Love.
Here comes the Snoopid. Doesn't even need the field because the Heart Bombs are going to, boom, put Adapting in the ground. There's the Fields of Love, saving it for Angry. Uses the beats to get away on that Tiamat. It's a red buff invade here for the Athenian Sages. Ooh, lucky there for the Ravens, able to secure their own buff.
Yeah, Adapting wanted to go for some farm, but having incredible amounts of pressure in that left lane means that Snoopy can rotate whenever he needs to, and probably assume that that red buff was coming up and there would be some easy farm. However, that Pyromancer that you mentioned did spawn in about 40 seconds ago, and unless some miracle play from Xngnnah, should be going to the Sages.
Hammer down, and the Athenian Sages are able to grab the Pyromancer, but they aren't done yet. Eagles rally over the top to allow Xngnnah to escape there. They call you a visionary, right? Trelly, they call me a prophet for calling that Pyromancer. Snoopy rotates over, and you're welcome, Athenian Sages. Anchor gets yoinked in the middle lane by the big hug bug there, jumps in aggressively as Calvin is here for some backup. Jangaru putting out damage in the back line and healing as well.
Yeah, but Jangaru has the cleanse and the heal, and that's all it really takes to make sure this Khepri gets out of trouble. But now Calvin is going to have to juke and abduct, and it does not happen. Circle protection goes down. Might not be enough.
Yeah, Calvin has that divine judgment from the Nemesis applied, stripping away protections, dash in, dash out for Dame, picking up the kill on the support. Adapting is here to return some damage, just doesn't have it. Silence doesn't
Snoopy
go off.
gets a solo?
And the Snoopid once again pops off on VaporishCoast. 3-0-2 for the Snoopid.
That was no ult either. Fields of Love just came up. Snoopy's just built different.
That was just unprecedented skill.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming like Heart Bomb, dash into the wall, immune, and then Snoopy has hit all the autos afterwards. I mean, the Aussie, unfortunately, is not bringing as much damage as the Fail-Non. Snoopy just has such a lead. 3-0, as well as Dave sitting 3-0. The Athenian Sages came to play. And with that Trebuchet pushing down left, could be some pressure on that Tier 1 tower.
Shouts to the Ravens, though. We're at 6 kills, all in the hands of the Athenian Sages, rather.
They are savages.
Yeah, you saw exactly where I was going
yeah.
with that. The Athenian Sages having 6 kills, 12 minutes in, have a Pyromancer to their name as well. Yet this gold lead, as you mentioned earlier, has not been extended as far as you'd imagine by the Athenian Sages at this point in the game.
Yeah, 6-0, being up about 2K. That's a little bit more forgivable for me. You know, when it was 2-0 and about 700 gold, that's when I was like, they should be a little bit more ahead. They finally played at some objectives. They went for that Pyromancer, and they looked at that left Tier 1 tower as well, which is living with a little bit of HP. Maybe if Snoopy is able to get some more pressure in that lane, could be a possibility. But this Gold Fury, I think, is going to be the real deciding factor here. Snoopy does drop the Fields of Love and gets the beats.
On to VaporishCoast goes the Heart Bomb. Aegis is able to immune the damage. Big time return poke there from VaporishCoast. The rest of the Athenian Sages make the rotation to support their hunter. delnyy and Xngnnah have both rotated out of that solo lane. Calvin, once again, the target of this Divine Judgment, popped in the ground before Adapting can even respond.
Yeah, now it's probably that Gold Fury that needs to be next on the money. delnyy and Xngnnah made the rotation for a reason. They realized what could have been looked at, and it looks like the Sages are just going to be able to pull this one for absolute free. Only Adapting is close by, and Hovering Death takes a little bit too long to channel. Gold Fury goes down for the Sages. So they've been playing this lead exactly how you would want, right? You find a pick, go for an objective. Find a pick, go for an objective. Snoopy forced out VaporishCoast for a reason, and now looks like some trouble.
Aggression in the mid lane. Jangaru dropping low, picked up by Angry on the left-hand side. Aggression as well, but VaporishCoast able to get out of that one. So only the mid laner for the Athenian Sages drops there. The Highland Ravens finally find a return kill and put a 1-up in their kill count.
Yeah, I saw that Adapting ulted out because the rotation from Dame could have been trouble. Jangaru even went for a tanky style of build. I see the Warlocks into the breastplate, but no Aegis was on the board just yet. Hadn't went back to base to pick that relic up, and probably would have been the saving grace that they needed. Not going to be the biggest deal, though, because the kill did go to Anger. I was hoping Adapting would be able to get the last hit there so we could finally get something started in this jungle. We just haven't seen too much damage coming out of this Thanatos for a reason. Snoopy once again dashing in.
And VaporishCoast once again uses that up-down from the ultimate to CC immune. The damage there does get popped by the Heart Bomb, is dropped below half HP. But don't worry, your support Calvin is here to pick up the extra slack. VaporishCoast is forced to back, so Snoopy and Privative have an avenue here to push down that tier 1 tower in the left-hand side with just a sliver of HP remaining. And at this point, we're approaching 15 minutes. Are you now concerned that this Thanatos has done less than nothing, actually has died once, giving gold and experience over to the Athenian Sages? Are you starting to get worried about what this pick can accomplish for adapting?
You know, I will say the last time that I cursed the Thanatos that was bottom damage, at level 17 they got like a pentakill. So I'm gonna hold my breath at the moment and say, and it was I'm pretty sure it was mass kill, just so we're clear.
Okay.
So we have some time here for adapting to get online. One kill can really open up the doors. It seems like a Blood Forge is on the way for adapting, so that would help out a ton, right? You're going to the back line, you get a kill, you get that HP reset, you start zooming, anything could happen. However, if you're looking at the XP throughout the board, you know, it's really just 5 kills on the Calvin.
Yeah.
Relatively even in the solo lane. I believe delny's up a bit gold-wise. Actually a level lead for Angry as adapting forced to Hovering Death defensively because of that blink from Dame, and actually going back in.
Definitely not defensively there, as back on a Dame goes adapting. The rest of the Highland Ravens are here to provide support. Kana going in, and now delnyy has also rotated in. Ultimate onto Angry from this Chulainn. Calvin has rotated around as well. The Wind Gust providing almost no damage there, as that is a support Eset. So it's going to be a full reset from both of these squads. But the Athenian Sages are now on this Pyromancer with only Kana here to stop the aggression.
Yeah, but it seems like Pyromancer could have been a consolation prize given up on Kana, as the Sages will get the confirmation for the Pyromancer and the beads for their troubles onto the Bellona. And this is the time in the game where it's probably going to get a little bit slow. Primal Fury not going to be up for a couple minutes. We just saw the Pyromancer go down. And if you're taking a look at the DPS from the carries, not enough to convincingly go for a Fire Giant. So I don't imagine too much aggression. Actually, a grouping up for the mid lane tower from the Sages. This is a good call if they're able to go for it. Too bad there's 2 mages in this lane, and they can clear the wave so effectively.
VaporishCoast in this left-hand side, able to get some free farm while Snoopy is rotated out of the lane, so that's going to be big for the Highland Ravens Hunter. And like you said, experience across the board. I mean, 15 tied in the duo lane, actually a level lead in the middle lane. Angry 15 over the level 14 Jangaru on this Hell. Same thing with adapting, has kept up just fine with Dame. And in the solo lane right there, parity, 16 and 16. So like you said, low bounties on Calvin, right? 0-5 on the support as delny's getting walked down here by adapting and Kana. But it doesn't feel like delnyy really cares at all. Finally into execute threshold. delnyy definitely cares now as adapting up downs for the hovering death execute.
Yeah, that was the perfect timing, because if the shield got off before delnyy went in the threshold, I don't think an execute could have been happening, as Angry forced to use the double relics, and Coast actually ults in.
Nightmare down on to the Athenian Sages. Angry, Calvin, and Kana. 4-man squad pushing forward here onto 4 members of the Athenian Sages. Dame able to juke out that Spirit Ball, but you just can't juke out the Eagles rally. Privative dropping low in the back line. Kana pushing forward, leading the charge here. Dame has rotated into the back line of the Highland Ravens, cutting down Connor in the back line, is able to dash out, adapting still at full HP. Not enough damage on either side, or rather I should say enough damage, but plenty of healing in order to avoid death for the Athenian Sages.
Yeah, unfortunately, adapting has not been able to go back and spend that gold. He was able to get 1 kill, but unfortunately Priv had the Scarab's Blessing there, confirmed that res, and not going to get credit for it. Still, though, you know, you're happy about getting a kill on right lane. delnyy is spawned back in, and that's exactly when that Primal Fury is about to get active. Needs some vision on this left side of the map if you are the Ravens, because if not, the Sages are going to be able to pull this right away. Look, they're already grouping 5 strong on this Primal Fury, and Kana, they're doing blue buff.
VaporishCoast, no ultimate, so no Nightmare to get in the action here. Calvin is around the corner, but the Spirit Ball and Circle of Protection aren't going to do it. In fact, no Circle of Protection available for this support Eset. Primal Fury will fall here to the Athenian Sages, extending their gold lead even further over the Highland Ravens.
Yeah, now a situation where the Trebuchet is pushing down mid. I was curious if the Sages would group up and try to take out one of these towers. Looks like they're more concerned about trying to stave their Greater Scorpion. A good silence will make sure that delny's not able to confirm. You know, the Sages just got an objective. They have to back up and spend the gold to actually make that gold real, and in this case, not looking to get too aggressive in the situation. Not going to be able to really push this lead any further. I already highlighted. Now we're in a situation. If Snoopy backs and gets a full item here, we're in Fire Giant territory. We're at the point where 1 pick could lead to the Sages getting aggressive on that side of the map. I think Coast has done exactly what he needs to, where it's just whenever there's a rotation out, Coast is stuck in lane, trying to push down that tower, trying to farm up effectively. Level 18, so tied for the highest XP in the game, actually with their own solo laner, Kana, and it looks like delnyy could be in some more trouble.
Once again, delnyy, the target of this jungler. VaporishCoast has rotated in as well, but delnyy so tanky on this level 18 Chulainn that both rotations from the adapting Thanatos and VaporishCoast Chernobog don't amount to anything. Snoopy allowed to push up this left side lane for free. Angry now rotating just to make sure that tier 2 tower is not under threat. But the Athenian Sages with nothing, or everything rather, down on the map can't really capitalize on the big time rotation to solo.
Yeah, and Snoopy did finish the full executioner. That's what I was wondering what was going to come through, because that means just more DPS for the Fire Giant. Of course, Dame also had Nexi, so would have been able to shred the prots for the rest of the team. But finally, we're seeing this grouping around this objective. 4 strong are the Sage, and actually, they're not looking for this Fire Giant. They're looking for just a relic, one opening to try and pull this so they can look for a team fight after the fact. But Kana wasn't taking the bait.
Calvin's leading the charge here, but at an 0-5, Eset should know the drill by now. You're just going to get yoinked in by Privative on this Khepri. Kana also leading the way. Angry gets rooted. No pull, though. Off the mark there from Privative. delnyy with that Salmon Sleep in onto Connor to force out the Bellona Spirit Ball way off the mark there from the Highland Ravens, and the Athenian Sages able to back off. And this is what you were referring to earlier in the game. It's the second fight, right? It's not the initial engagement. It's the ability for these Athenian Sages to back off, to heal up, utilizing Hel and Cupid, and to reinitiate with the full force of their full health bars.
Yeah, I'm just keeping my eyes on the Ravens relics, right? Because that's going to be the issue. If the Ravens are actually burning relics for the first fight, the second fight will be much harder, but they haven't been taking the bait. They haven't been using beads onto these roots from Privative, the abducts, things like that. Pyromancer started up and actually stolen away by the Highland Ravens. That's going to be a little bit of extra gold in their pocket. Still down about 3K, but nice sensibility to know that they could step up for that one and not commit too much.
Yeah, unsure if that was Calvin with the Spirit Ball or Angry on the Tiamat securing that one down, but the Highland Ravens are going to take away that Pyromancer from the Athenian Sages, which is, a good play at 21 minutes, approaching 22 minutes here. You're behind in gold. You go for a safe steal attempt. You end up making it happen, but it's not like the Athenian Sages are cursing their luck or anything.
No, I think they might give up. I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, yeah?
I wouldn't be surprised
incoming?
if they just got up. And
Their mentals are so gone from that steal.
Yeah, that Pyromancer would have given them just enough for the Sentry Wards they all wanted to buy for this fire, and now their game plan has been ruined. Either way, I actually see a grouping over here on the left side of the map. Snoopy was being looked at by adapting for a second, probably noticed Priv and immediately said, never mind, we don't want to go for a commit. A botched gank this late into the game is Fire Giant, like 9 times out of 10. So trying to go for the level 19 Cupid with both relics up, not going to be the safest call. 2 very low towers have been pinged, and I think the Sages aren't going to be able to defend both of them. When Coast can just go left lane, push that tower, then ult in towards the Fire Giant, eventually there's going to be even more gold going into the pockets of the Ravens. But given the lead, I think they need that gold more than the Sages need to hold on to it.
Absolutely agree. It's not insignificant for the Highland Ravens to grab those 2 towers, put a little more gold in the pocket, especially looking at Calvin. I mean, 2 items online, a Stacked Thebes and a Breastplate of Valor for the Eset. I mean, that's rough game, rough life right there.
Yeah, I don't imagine, because you can see Priv, 3, you got 2 fully upgraded relics, 3 aura items. The Scarab's Blessings have been on point, 005. That's the perfect support stat line. Calvin might be in some even more trouble after the abduct.
Oh, not for the 6th time, though. 5 times abducted, 5 deaths for Calvin, but it will not be for Privative now, as the remainder of the Athenian Sages are going to group around this Scorp. That's going to go down, and it's just a reset here at 23 minutes in. Nobody has the avenue to take on this Fire Giant. Scorpions are going to go to each of their respective teams. It's just buy time now. Soul Reaver just fully picked up there by Jangaru on this Hel. And I think we've touched on the healing so far that Jangaru has afforded to their team, but we really haven't talked about the damage coming through as Snoopy uses those large fields of love there just to force Angry out of the way.
And it is going to grab Angry's beads, so that was the win. That was all that the Sages were after. Grab the beads, get out, and it looks like Oni Fury spawning in, and the Sages are going to get over as quickly as possible. The threat of doing Oni Fury at 23 minutes is usually, oh no, what if they're pulling Fire Giant?
Right.
Coast is still in left lane, and that's their DPS for Fire Giant, so never going to be a fear. And it looks like delnyy was sort of playing the middleman just in case to make sure there was no other presence on that right side of the map. So now a free Oni Fury for the Sages. I have to imagine the call is to back immediately, spend a bit of gold, and look towards this Fire Giant. They're going to have to defend these Oni waves, and Coast has already been sitting in left lane throughout this whole game. Would love to upgrade, would love to get the last item in this build and try and get some extra DPS online. The Sages shouldn't let that happen just because of their presence, the fact that they're so far up. It shouldn't be too difficult. Notably, though, we did talk about Calvin, and he did fully upgrade that Ankh. The healing from the Sages could be nullified. If Calvin's job is just drop the Circle Protection, pop that Ankh, and then just die, it could be enough to make sure that the rest of the Ravens can succeed. I'm still putting a lot of respect on adapting. He's going to have to pull up massive here. The execute, it cannot be Aegis. It has to land, a kill has to come through, and it looks like this Fire Giant will be pulled.
Athenian Sages grouping up around this Fire Giant. Dame and delnyy at the forefront of this push. Xngnnah is also trying to zone away the Athenian Sages from their mid laner here, and doing so successfully. Calvin wrapping around the corner. Adapting has finally joined the party. VaporishCoast, meanwhile, is pushing up this left lane, is pushing Phoenix, waiting for the perfect time to ultimate into this fight. delnyy forced to teleport all the way back to the left lane Phoenix. So the Highland Ravens have successfully split this fight in two.
Yeah, if Coast ulted in, this could be a 5v4, but it looks like Coast is actually just going to have to run away from delnyy for as long as possible, and delnyy will channel the back. So great play there, honestly, by Coast. And of course, delnyy was the only one who could make it to that Phoenix in time, had to burn through the teleport, but all this is essentially done is stalled out the game even longer for the Ravens to try and get these builds online. Protector of the jungle finish for adapting. That's going to be pretty massive whenever you are fighting around this Fire Giant, just trying to get a little bit of extra damage and tank stats. Full blaster Thanatos does have some one-shot potential, but one bit of CC, I mean, one Heart Bomb connects, and the Thanatos look a little bit worse for wear.
Full blaster Thanatos?
Oh, yeah.
Is that?
That's what it's called, yeah. 100%.
All right, good to know. You learn something new every day. Adapting looks like lands that scythe onto Jangaru. That's going to be healed up immediately. Plenty of anti-heal, as you mentioned. You got the Toxic Blade on the Bellona. Brawlers, of course, the first item pickup for the Thana. Divine Ruin, second item pickup for the Tiamat. So, hell, a little bit less effective in these extended engagements. Pyromancer back on the map, which means it's going to go down. Last time should have gone to the Athenian Sages. Ravens were able to pick it up as delnyy goes in aggressively here on Calvin and Xngnnah. Blinks in on the two tanky targets for the Highland Ravens, trying to lock down these two targets while the rest of the Sages follow up. Jangaru explodes Calvin, adapting in the air.
delny's going crazy in that engagement. Used the transformation so effectively. Gets the CC, says, you're not in the circle protection, I'm pushing you out. And now the Fire Giant will finally be pulled. Hovering Death, not available. Xngnnah still has the Eagles rally, but it's going to take a while. And Dame is playing zone duty, but missed the Bellona entirely.
VaporishCoast ultimate still available as well if that becomes necessary. Dame wrapping around the back here. There's the Divine Judgment stripping away protections from Xngnnah. Double dash in, shield utilized, slice and dice for the slow there. And Nemesis is able to successfully zone Xngnnah long enough for the Athenian Sages to wrap that Fire Giant buff around their waist.
Yeah, Dame played that fight about as perfectly as you can. Was able to zone everyone out except for Xngnnah, and the rest of the Sages were like, we're not getting out bursted by a Bellona. No shot that's going to happen. Use the Divine Judgment to force out Eagles Rally, and we'll call that a net win. Now the Sages are able to push down right. It's only a 3v5 because Coast and Adapting are still in the base.
28-minute Phoenix push here. Cupid ultimate used to create zone. delnyy takes out one, but VaporishCoast answers back onto Dame. delnyy about to fall, but a great Scarab's Blessing there from Privative allows the solo laner to continue the fight. Privative now under pressure by VaporishCoast, Adapting, and Xngnnah. Moving forward is this Bellona on delnyy, who is down to about a quarter HP. Salmon's Leap out, but here comes Bellona.
And it looks like there's a bunch of movement between delnyy. Will certainly be a casualty of war, but how much more can the Ravens get? Adapting goes up, has to choose his target wisely. Is it Jangaru or is it Priv? It looks like Jangaru could be in some trouble.
Jangaru, the correct target there. Adapting, able to aegis away most of the damage from the hell there. Finds the second kill of the game for the
Snoopy's
jungler
getting
of the
the
Highland
Phoenix.
Ravens. But meanwhile, Snoopy the whole time, the Snoopid going crazy. Right lane Phoenix will fall to this Cupid. I mean, I don't know who, the tier 2 tower on the right-hand side is going to fall to the Highland Ravens. They don't have the juice in them to push this right side Phoenix. I mean, is that a net even? Is that a win for the Ravens and the Sages?
Well, I'm going to say losing your right side Phoenix hurts for sure, but you've essentially neutralized the first push of this Fire Giant. Remember, it's got 2 minutes and 17 seconds left, but it's only on the duo lane. Priv and Snoopy are the only ones that are able to hold on to that buff. it's going to be a breath of fresh air for the Highland Ravens. They were able to successfully win a team fight, and I think that does wonders for their confidence. Adapting makes a good play. He goes in, was forced to Aegis, but I think Jangaru probably is able to win that 1v1 unless that Aegis is used. And now, this Primal Fury would be massive if the Highland Ravens were able to confirm it. Given the positioning, I don't think Priv's coming over to go for a steal. So the Highland Ravens have a little bit of extra gold in pocket as well. And actually should be in the lead once this goes down.
In the lead in gold. We're at approaching 30 minutes here, so gold becomes less and less of a factor as time goes on, of course. In SMITE, everybody's at level 20.
I don't know,
minus
Calvin's
the
got
supports.
3 items still.
Okay, you're right. The 0-6 Eset has 3 items, so maybe a little bit more important there that the Highland Ravens do confirm the gold Fury for themselves, try to get their support back on parity with the support for the Athenian Sages, who has finished 3 items, looking to finish up that 4th item there. Starter item completed as well.
Wow.
There you go, Calvin.
The glow up is real. Calvin,
the 4th item there.
Calvin's able to hit level 18 on par with Priv
Let's
as
go, baby.
well as that tier 2 in mid falls down. I think this was the big difference maker in goal, was the fact that the Sages had not been able to split push as easily. They weren't grabbing these towers as Coast and Adapting were making quick work of them in left side, and that's really why the gold isn't as far-fetched as it should be. But now the Sages are just trying to set up an ambush here. They're sort of camping around the Trebuchet saying, hey, you guys want to step up to this Trebuchet? It's nice and pretty. As promised, we're not sitting around the corner. But the Ravens have been around for a while. They know, hey, there's a bunch of waves that are not being pushed. I wonder where the Sages are. Fire Giant's not available. Gold Fury we already took. They're probably hiding in the jungle, and no one going to fall for that bait. They will just stay back in their base until Fire Giant spawns in. But so, yeah, I think this was just a breath of fresh air. Fire Giant does run out in about 20 seconds, and the Sages are going to still be in control. But this right side bird is so easy to defend when you're already at the Fire Giant, right? Coast was making his name, pushing over in left lane. He could very easily defend right side and still be able to ult in. It's not very far from the actual Fire Giant pit. This is the strongest the Ravens have looked throughout this whole game, and they're 31 minutes in.
A combined 4-0 and 10 for the duo lane from the Athenian Sages. Deathless right now are Privative and Snoopy on this Khepri and Cupid respectively. How much work have they been doing in this one? I mean, Snoopy has been on point with these hard bombs, threading one for the first blood of the game. Big fields of love as there's more grouping here around the Fire Giant. This time the Highland Ravens controlling the space, and Privative is forced to dash away there as Tiamat is aggressively positioning quite forward there. The Highland Ravens successfully secure the Pyromancer, grab the objective they were looking for, and back away.
Yeah, I love what Dame was doing during all that. The Pyromancer, not going to be the biggest deal, was pushing up mid lane. I was curious how many waves Dame was going to push in that mid lane, because someone's got to go back to get some pressure, right? Adapting currently clearing over and right. And Coast is not split pushing. Coast is finally in this fight at the start, as EFG should be touching down here shortly. The Enhanced Fire Giant, this is the end-all be-all. This is the objective that you have to make sure that your confirm is on point for. Circle of Protection is still available. It's not going to do as much as Jangaru is able to whip out, but still something you got to keep in mind.
Highland Ravens pushing forward here. Here comes the EFG. Immediately a Spirit Ball on a Privative. Circle of Protection has been dropped by the support Eset. Same thing with the Cupid ultimate. In response to the Athenian Sages on the back foot here, Snoopy does pick up the first kill, but half health across the board. delnyy dropping just under execute threshold. Adapting picks up one, picks up a second. VaporishCoast takes out Privative. A huge swing in the direction for the Highland Ravens.
And now it's 2v4. It looks like Dame might be going for that right side bird as the Enhanced Fire Giant is still being looked at. There's no way that Angry can get here in time. So the Phoenix should certainly fall down, but will Dame be able to get back after the fact? If you lose your Nemesis here, your base could be in some trouble. Dame's going to take them on a merry little chase, and it's up to Jangaru to just sit in base and wait.
Well, a slow available for Dame on this
wins
Nemesis, but slice and dice utilized, double dash utilized. Adapting's over the wall, waiting for the Nemesis to escape, and Angry is able to take that 1v1, no problemo, and you gotta spam that.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Enhanced Fire Giant's a little bit too much to fight into. I was thinking if Dame just committed to the auto attacks, could have been some trouble, but Adapting was on the way just in case, and now this Phoenix is falling down 9 seconds before Priv. It looks like they're not calling for the base race. They're just going to head back and start getting some more farm.
Yeah, the Athenian Sages coming out of the grayscale, and what, at that point it was like 8 seconds away, something like that. Way too soon for the Highland Ravens to call for that hero base race there, but Phoenixes do trade. The right side Phoenix goes down for the Highland Ravens, courtesy of Dame. Meanwhile, the Athenian Sages lose their middle lane bird, courtesy of the Highland Ravens. And of course, that EFG wrapped around the Highland Ravens belt now for just under 4 minutes. What do they have left to do with it? It's this left lane Phoenix, it's this right lane Phoenix, it's the end call, right?
Yeah, I'm just seeing adapting hit for 1,000 without crits, and that just, I'm excited to see that on gods. That's what I'm excited to see as this goes on. 1168, one of those sweeping auto attacks. Of course, it is on a buff, but I still think with EFG, the Thanatos is going to be absolutely swinging. This is why I was holding my breath for saying that adapting was vastly useless in the early. I don't think that was a stretch call. It's just, it's in a situation where there's a lot of squishy targets on the opposition. Thanatos will still be able to have a field day if an execute gets set up properly, and delnyy was exactly that execute that adapting needed in the previous fight. And now it's time for the Highland Ravens to go for a siege. Left side bird is probably on the menu, but it looks like Oni Fury's going to be cut down first.
Yeah, why not grab this neutral objective before you push down the left lane Phoenix, right? You got 3 minutes left on the EFG, so you've got time to work with. It's not like you're playing with seconds. You got minutes here. So grab that Oni Fury, get your minions even more powered up, push down this left-hand side, and the Athenian Sages, for their credit, at least have a couple more seconds due to that Oni Fury to try to game plan on how they are going to defend their Titan from this charging Highland Ravens.
Yeah, that is going to be the call. Looks like Xngnnah still has some fire waves to deal with and actually hasn't been able to really join the fight just yet. You have EFG on 4. Calvin would love that buff, but it's just not going to be the case. And now that Xngnnah is going back to base, finally upgrades that teleport and will be able to join the team when this left side bird starts to get sieged. But they're on a timer. Look at the right. There's going to be some fire minions pushing in eventually. The Sages just have to hold out here.
Calvin, the sacrificial lamb all game long. Let's see if they drop one more time here as the Highland Ravens charge down the left-hand lane, looking for this Firebird. The Athenian Sages need a big defense here. Circle of Protection dropped under the Phoenix. Privative, the target for the Tiamat ultimate. delnyy goes in the back line, but dropped to half HP early on. Phoenix still being targeted. Phoenix down there for the Highland Ravens, adapting, not able to find value off that hovering death. So the Athenian Sages don't lose any of their members, but they certainly lose their left side bird.
Yeah, smart call there. I thought adapting might have went for one of those possible executes, but he's been around for a while. He knew Snoopy's Aegis was up and delnyy wasn't quite in threshold, decides to join the team and just be happy with 2 Phoenixes down. And because they were able to be so quick, the Highland Ravens lose no sort of pressure in right lane, and they're able to clear that out as well. EFG falls off in about 26 seconds, so no more pushing from the Highland Ravens. They will just be able to get some buffs here. And we're setting up for possibly the 3rd Fire Giant attempt, the 2nd enhanced Fire Giant attempt of the game. The Ravens' right side bird will be up, so this is essentially just a bad map state for the Sages. They're going to have 2 Phoenixes down, maybe that mid one. Yeah, the mid one will spawn in by the time for EFG, but someone is going to have to commit to clearing these left side waves. They have a couple options. You know, you could put yourself in the position where someone goes to left lane and clears those, could be delnyy, and then teleports in. Or you could just completely ignore that wave and just go for the Fire Giant right away. Just say, you know what, we're committing to this, we're going to win the fight and end the game, or we're going to lose and we're not going to care about that Titan damage. At the situation, it looks like the Sages are giving up on that left side, and they're just going to group up here.
Yeah, why not, right? It's kind of a Hail Mary, right? We're approaching that time in the game, 40 minutes, where a team wipe is going to cost you the game, right? So you play for that one last fight here. Athenian Sages, full build, I mean, across the board, except for, what, one item there for Privative on the Khepri. Has to finish off that breastplate there. Level 20s across the board. We're at 40 minutes, so you can expect everybody to have reached this game state. 0-7-5, like I said, Calvin playing the Sacrificial Lamb all game long. Still has 1 item slot to go. Probably won't play a role in this coming Fire Giant dance here as the FG is about to crash back down the map. Privative trying to kick things off here. On to Calvin. Jangaru putting out plenty of damage on the support. He said Circle of Protection used to not much value, but here comes the hovering death. Thanatos is able to find 1, and Thanatos able to find
Adapting.
2. Triple kill for Adapt King. VaporishCoast steals the Quadra. How unfortunate. Dame finds 2 in return, but is the final remaining member of the Athenian Sages after adapting brutalized the remainder of their team.
It's Dame versus 3, no Fire Giant in play, but I mean, clearing fire minions alone is going to be hard enough for this Nemesis. He's got a tough task to climb holding this base by himself.
This is going to have to be a miraculous attempt here from Dame. I don't see it happening. And exploded
Where'd he go?
goes the Nemesis. VaporishCoast picks that one up for themselves. And Adapt King and the remainder of the Highland Ravens find game number 1.
Wow, I mean, I knew it was a tall hill to climb, but I didn't expect him to get deleted that fast. Wow, the Thanatos, you know, Thanatos being an early game slated god, that myth has been busted by King Kenneth here today. He did not care. He said, yeah, I'm doing less damage than the Khepri. Give me till 20 minutes, and you will know why I picked this Thanatos. Just had free reign, was always able to land those executes in the Fire Giant fights, and in a situation like this, I don't think it's a stretch to say this game was a little bit thrown by the Sages. I think they were in the position where they could have won this easily. A little bit of a botch fight. They got the right side Phoenix, but they lost the fight after the fact. They had all the cards in their hand, and it was like they built the house of cards, and it just came tumbling down.
Yeah, shouts to the Athenian Sages for controlling most of the pace of this game. The Highland Ravens keeping up for a lot of it and just steamrolling at the end. It was back and forth for so long, and that's exactly why I think this one's going to go to 3. I mean, both of these teams are so equally matched. Coming into this match, I looked at the schedule, I said, Sages Ravens absolutely have the shot to go to 3, but first the Sages have to fight back with a strong game number 2 that's coming at you in just a second. Stick around.
But he had the horsey, and horsey, don't you stop! Fido King! Fido King!
I gave up dabbing for Lynn.
Cool. No more dabbing for Final. He looked at me and said, I'm going to be on that stage next year. I'm going to become a world champion.
Ripping through! Titan down, ball 3! Until we'll go
It's a long one here in game one between the Sages and the Ravens. One that the Sages probably walk away from feeling like they could have won that game. Maybe they should have won that game. But the Ravens ultimately able to weather the storm, who unfortunately have fallen out of this tournament, and remain on the line here. And Ravens are able to take game number one after a big, big turnaround here. Because if you look at how this game started, you're thinking the Sages are running away with things. Does not end up that way. And the Ravens able to grab a game one win here. Most important game in a best-of-3 set goes to the Highland Ravens. Myth, the Sages were off to a roaring start. Snoopy's like 4-0. Jungle, Dame's looking great. But ultimately, we're not able to convert that into a game win.
No, I mean, even when Snoopy's 4-0, you look over at VaporishCoast, takes over to level 21st. You look at when the Sages are up 6-2, top of the screen, only up like 2,000 gold. The entire time I was watching the early game, I said to myself, man, the Sages are so much better in the fight, and the other side is just the Highland Ravens are just better at literally everything else. Farm on the map, splitting experience, taking away resources, dancing around objectives. Just every single time able to find the advantage in that regard. That early game, I think, for the Athenian Sages just needed to establish itself more so around objectives. Sure, you're winning out on a whole lot of these engagements, but you gotta find separation and golden experience. Kills are only that. They're only there to get you those two things. The top of your screen might look real good, but it's all about finding the way into that Titan room, and the Athenian Sages just couldn't quite do it.
Yeah, it's not worth enough to win a game strictly off of that. You got to be able to convert it into farm, into neutral objectives. Coast really impressed me here this game. Of course, Adapting did, and we'll look at what Adapting's KDA ended up being at the end of this game. But Coast ends the game on a rampage. And I'm glad you shouted out, because the real zoom in is that Snoopy was 4-0 at like level 17 or 18. Coast was at 0-1 and hit level 20, as you mentioned, way before Snoopy did. And so the farming allowed Coast to effectively hit the same KDA as Snoopy with one less death. And then, of course, Adapting at 7-1-7 on the Thanatos looks absolutely fantastic here.
You talking about Chernobog?
Yeah, Adapting's on the screen. Is this a bit with, like, me not respecting him by calling him Adapting?
Well, I'm just saying, like, you know, the crown's on his head, Divine Right of Kings, maybe refer to him by his title.
So when Dimes called you Miffy Baby, and you said that's no, because Mifflin's the name you chose.
Yeah, so like...
Adapting is the name that he chose.
Yeah, but the right bestowed upon him by God is King Kenneth.
I mean, this is just unbelievable. You guys should have seen what happened in the green room. I mean, Miff is just...
Yo, leave me alone, dude. They don't need to know. I'm a fan.
No, you are a fan of Adapting. For good reason after what happened here in game number one. Calvin gets bailed out a bit here in this game. Calvin was like 0-8 by the end of this game. But I think that's important to look at here as well. The Sages were getting a lot of kills. When the Sages had 9 kills, 6 of them were on the Eset. So, like, at some point, you got to diversify where it is, because Eset's going to drop circular protection. He's going to get the stuns anyway. And that's just how that's going to roll out. So the Sages unable to convert a high kill lead early on into a Game 1 win. Ravens clearly feeling good in their player cams after a Game 1 win here. So picks and Bans.Game, now that we are on the precipice of moving into P's and B's for Game 2, I don't know, are you banning things like the Thanatos away from adapting? It's already happened once here this weekend. Is that a good enough performance in Game 1 to just take it away in the first few bans?
To rephrase your question, you asked me if I were on the Sages, what am I doing to stop adapting?
Specifically Thanatos, is that a worthwhile ban in your eyes going into Game 2?
Yeah, so if the question is, what are you doing to stop adapting? I'm begging him for mercy. That's what I'm doing, personally.
But does that involve banning a Thanatos?
No, I'm not banning Thanatos.
Okay.
Look, would you prefer him on Thanatos, or would you prefer him on something that is already dominating the meta, right?
I prefer him on a pick that's not 7-1 and 7.
Yeah, well, that's
where the mercy.
what he does.
That's where the mercy begging comes in.
That's right.
Look, the Sages, I think you replay that game a few times. Sages probably, out of 10 games, Sages are probably able to convert a good handful of those into a win. So I don't know if the Sages really have to change all that much of their early game up. It's just finding the objective pressure with things like big leads over on that Cupid. Coast, as we mentioned, really comes online at the end of Game 1 there as well. So good all-around team performance from the Ravens to slow things down, get to the late game. That was, nearly a 40-minute game there in game number 1. The lengthier games we've had here this weekend. Chernobog, 78% win rate, an improvement after Game 1. And it'll end up being first pick here for the Ravens. Feels like you're not opening yourself up to too much by grabbing a Chernobog this early.
No, plug and play plus flex potential means it's going to be pretty difficult to lock down exactly where this Chernobog is going, and no matter where he goes, he's going to be everywhere thanks to that global presence.
I'm sorry.
Bellona and DameNWK as the answer. Surprised to see Bellona prioritize this highly. I know DameNWK is pretty strong right now. Great way to burn through some of those beads. Phenomenal late game scaling. Whole lot of burst potential. But Bellona, I feel like you probably could have held off on this pick for a little while. EU SEC certainly puts a bit more respect towards that Bellona, so maybe concerned that they'd have it taken away from them. But I think there are plenty of options available in the Soul Lane that you don't really need to feel pressured to take it in that slot. Suppose the Sages just want to hide a bit more of their draft.
Do like the DameNWK pick from the Sages, I think.
Baba
Yaga. In the jungle. All right, if we're going 40 minutes again, Myth, you're going to have a tanky Xing and a high damaging Baba Yaga now over in the mid lane. Seems like a good series of picks for the Ravens.
And then you've also got one of the best late game scaling hunters thanks to that stim. The Ravens love playing for the late games. You could probably guess that it is going to get to that point. This is good, though, for the Sages. You've already got a really, really strong transformation target. You could turn into the DameNWK early game, could even turn into the Bellona if you want. I think it is a bit more likely that it is going to be DameNWK transformations. So if you're maxing out that second ability on Morrigan, you're getting extra points in 1,000 cuts, which is just really good. Another way to burn CC, or CC immunity rather, off of the Ravens. Just double powwow in the team fight. Very, very difficult to deal with. But large channeled CC immunity seems to be the name of the game already from the Ravens. Xing, Chernobog, and Baba Yaga have all got it in their ultimates. So I'm thinking if you want to put pressure on those defensive relics, you're probably going to want one more god that can probably burn beads on their own.
I think this does also, on the flip side, speak volumes to adapting this team's confidence and adapting's ability to play a wide variety of jungle picks. They've consistently left the last couple of picks up to adapting, and no different here in game number 2, with only the Nemesis and the Hunbats taken away.
I think he goes Thanatos.
By the Sages. If he does go Thanatos, it better not look good, right? I mean, but you do spend ban capital on the Nemesis and the Hunbat, so it's not like the Sages weren't banning out the jungle. Just didn't quite stick there in game number 1. Hercules would be interesting, and so would Sobek. One of these two is going to change, certainly.
No way it's Hercules jungle, right? I mean, I had always thought Hercules jungle could be good. Like think about it. It's just blink in punch or blink pull punch. Either way, you've got high displacement and really good burst potential. Plus, if you go Shield of Regrowth, your movement speed's not really too sacrificed either, so your mobility's pretty decent. Hercules jungle can certainly work. I'm just not certain I want to see it here. But I'm not going to be questioning adapting.
Right, we've established that myth.
That's right.
Make no worry. We know we're not questioning adapting. Pele ends up being the pick. Again, these Low to mid to high 70% win rates tend to be the theme here. Does end up being a Hercules lock-in. So it looks like solo lane Hercules for the Ravens in game 2. And so I think a couple things to break down here, Miff. Starting with the Pele, not unused to seeing the Pele so far here this weekend. Do you think it fits in with the rest of the draft from the Ravens?
High DPS, really good dive
It's time to
potential. The
turn
rest
this
of your
battle
composition also
in our
very strong in
favor.
the dive. The only one you're really concerned about is Chernobog, but that global presence should allow him to get in that back line with your Pele, with your Hercules, with your Xing, and to a certain extent with your Baba Yaga when she's in that home sweet home. A very spearhead style composition that should do well in the laning phase. Xing, very survivable. Hercules, very survivable. Chernobog, very, very survivable. So if the Ravens are trying to reprise... Yeah, very, very. Because he's got like an Aegis built into his kit twice, plus an Aegis that he's probably just gonna like purchase from the shop.
Yep.
So, if the Ravens' strategy is to just elongate this match, make their way into the late game, I think they've got a composition for it. Whereas on the other hand, the Sages have got some pretty aggressive picks. Hou-Yi, one of the heaviest kill potential gods in the duo lane. Daji, putting a whole lot of pressure on those defensive relics early on. Global presence from your Athena, meaning that no matter where the fight starts, even if Chernobog is getting involved, your worst case scenario is even numbers in some of those trades. I think the Sages, with this style of composition, again, don't fall off too much in the late game. Anytime you've got double Daji, I'm not going to disparage your ability to team fight. But I think they've also got the potential to win out in the early. And I would say the onus probably belongs to them considering the pacing of game 1.
Agreed. I mean, the Sages set the pace in game 1. The pace ended up falling off a bit and gave the Ravens the win. I love this Athena pick, actually, for Privative. I mean, when you talk about the cliche of backs against the wall, must win, not only this set in general, but now you get to a game 2 where you're already down one game in a best-of-3 set. You lose this one, you're going home. And Privative has proven that the Athena pick is one that has worked consistently in the past, not only for them as a player, but for this team in general. Such a dynamic style pick, maybe able to match some of the global pressure of the Chernobog.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's certainly a pick that we know that Privative is very comfortable playing. He goes towards it very, very often. But it's susceptible to early game rotations. I'm talking pre-5. She's very similar to Ymir in that regard. Not exactly the most mobile. Sure, you've got that dash, but it takes a good long while to charge up. Plenty of ways to disrupt it already from the other side. So keep your eyes on Privative. I think that he is going to be a major keystone of this composition, but has to get to the point where he's allowed to make that active play style really work.
Well, you mentioned pre-5. You got to look at the Highland Ravens composition then as well. We've seen Pele consistently throughout this weekend. Seen some great games from it. 70% win rate. I mean, Adapting goes 7-1 in game number 1. If Adapting can fuel up that tank with some more high-octane gas, but get things rolling earlier, it's a really good look. Highland Ravens versus Athenian Sages. Game number 2 with Dimes and Trelly.
Thank you so much, Dave. Yeah, okay, not David. Dave. Highland Ravens, Athenian Sages going at it here. Athenian Sages fighting for their tournament life, trying to take this one to our very first game number 3 of the entirety of SMITE Summer Masters. As Dave mentioned, it's Dimes, it's Trelly, it's Doug spectating for us here. And you got to think both the Ravens and the Sages got exactly what they were looking for composition-wise.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can ever complain when you look at your team comp and you get the Morrigan and Daji, so certainly the Sages happy with playing that. And looking at what the Ravens have drafted as well, I mean, you got Coast back on the Chernobog. He had a phenomenal performance, even though he was getting solo killed, rather. He was still able to hit level 20 first. His farm game was exquisite, and that's all you could really hope for your ADC. Who cares how the lane went? Get to late game and auto-attack people. Like, that's your job, period. And Coast did that very well. Angry on this Baba Yaga is going to be able to output so much damage as well. And take a look at the relic selection here from the Ravens. That's 3 Blinks into 2 Dajis. That's ballsy. That's going to be we're going to have to see if that works out for him.
The Highland Ravens are feeling good about their chances here versus Dame on this Daji. Dame popped on the Nemesis pick last game. Daji, we know, has a high success rate in the SPL, has looked great here at SMITE Summer Masters, is up there in a similar tier as the Nemesis. Obviously, Dame has the ability to pilot this pick. Snoopy going forward, looking for that ricochet. And I do have to say, Snoopy has some of the best geometry when it comes to the ricochets off of this Hou-Yi.
Oh yeah, he's one that always wants to fight. We saw him on the Cupid constantly dashing in, looking for those 1v1 engagements. Hou-Yi, one of the better 1v1ers in the duo lane. You always have the option to hit a crazy bounce and just turn a fight and whenever you can get aggressive, certainly could be the option. It looks like, I was going to say adapting and Angry were rotating over to those Oracles. I thought maybe some aggression onto Snoopy and Priv, but Snoopy and Priv are actually the ones looking for the aggression. They're so far up here, and adapting's going to wrap around.
A minute and a half rotation out of the duo lane here. Dame has joined the party. Calvin being the target for the Athenian Sages. Dive bomb in by Snoopy, ripping away as the dodgy at that Xing. Calvin falls yet again for the Highland Ravens.
And delnyy actually gets pushed underneath the tower there. I was thinking maybe if the Earthbreaker could have came through, maybe some more aggression. But adapting does blink in here onto Snoopy. Has the jump. He's going to take the right choice to get out of there. And actually, Dame's on the way back.
Yeah, Dame has rotated once again to this duo lane. Adapting, not too much magma under their feet there. VaporishCoast is the target, though, with that low mana bar. Snoopy coming in with that ricochet, lands it on the Chernobog. Not too much damage at level 2, though. Adapting, running back into the fray, looking for Dame. A couple more autos are going to secure the kill onto the jungler.
No
Adapting
way, oh.
gets taken down by the ricochet from the Hou-Yi. Trades their life in response. VaporishCoast, I should say, picks that one up. And action firing early in this one, 2-2 already. That's doubling the amount of minutes we've been in this game.
Yeah, what an absolute brawl in the duo lane as neither of the mid laners decide to make that rotation over. They're okay with just farming. They sort of have a ceasefire, like, hey, we're both going to go for red buff. Yeah, that's cool. All right, clear the wave. Let them fight. We're going to sit here and do our thing. Works out pretty well for everyone involved. A little bit of a goal lead there for Sages just on the back of that first blood bounty. But besides that, a relatively even game throughout. And, you know, XP-wise across the board, kills, gold, everything's looking extremely similar. Snoopy just trying to confirm that purple buff. Coast and Calvin are here, but it's a little bit too far to maybe go for.
This is a total 180 from game number 1. Snoopy grabs the purple, dive bombs over the wall to get to this wave on time. I mean, Calvin and Coast here pushing up this duo lane. We saw 2 early rotations. Calvin just about getting pulled under the tower there with that taunt from Athena. 2 early rotations from both of the junglers. 4 kills on the board, 2-2 for each of these squads. The adrenaline is high in this one. Already action, I mean, 10 times what it was at this point in the last match.
Yeah, and it's just, I'm surprised actually that the Sages were able to die as much as they have, given the fact that it's a 2v2. I mean, you're up against Calvin who had the blink, right? But Priv had the meditation, usually just such a great tool. If you're able to group up around that meditation, you shouldn't be dying in the early, right? You essentially have a second health bar if you use it correctly, but just goes to show the amount of aggression as Dame does find the kill onto Adapting. Remember those beads I was talking about? Didn't hold on to those, and Adapting obviously was not level 5 yet. So You're looking at a blink and a cloud of dust. Unfortunately, Adapting goes down. That's the first pal out of the game, and Dame's able to connect. Actually, it was Jangaru doing the pal out. That's on me. Jangaru pal out. Dame was just being himself. He still has that ult available.
Right, and that's smart there. Utilize that in the middle lane and allow Dame to hold that pal out for other lanes around the map, right? So you're letting the Morrigan do the dirty work for you. So now this duo lane is still under pressure, right? That solo lane is still under pressure because Dame retains that ultimate. So smart team play there from the Athenian Sages. Adapting goes down for the second time in this game, but still not put behind is the world champion jungler.
No, he's going to be just fine farm-wise. The build, however, is going to take a little bit of a hindrance as Dame already finished that Brawler's Beatstick. Snoopy does have to dive bomb away, but Coast is just ulting back as a pseudo-teleport. He wants his farm, and he wants it now, so he's going to fly in. Shouldn't be too much aggression until the Suns get active. Snoopy's only level 4. Once that ultimate comes through, maybe some more fight potential. But you're right to highlight, this has been an action-packed game. I mean, it's 2-3. The gold lead actually heavily in the Sages' favor at this point, but they've been able to use that influence throughout the map, and I don't think the Ravens they're not pulling their punches either, right? They're meeting this aggression as much as they can. I think Adapting realizes now, though, you got to hold on to that Volcanic Lightning. You have to hold on to that ultimate. There's 2 dodgies constantly. I have to be sure that I've got CC immunity because I can't give any more free picks. That's not going to be the way to win this game.
Yeah, Adapting's ultimate almost just becomes exclusively an escape at this point. Like, if you initiate with that Pele ultimate, I should say, the Volcanic Lightning, as you said. If you initiate with that thing, you're just, like, strung out. You don't have beads. You have the blink online. What are you going to do against the double Palau? I noticed that the Athenian Sages combined Dame and Jangaru there for the greater Scorpion Steel. So the Athenian Sages utilizing some macro pressure on the right side of the map, taking away the Highland Ravens neutral farm and climbing a little bit higher in those gold standings.
Yeah, last game I think the gold lead certainly was in favor of the Sages for a bit, and then the Ravens really picked it up. That's when they were like, okay, we're not going to fight. We are just working on farming. You know, Snoopy was rotating out of lane, but Coast was just like, guys, I'm going to get this tower. I'm going to go for tier 2. I will stay here as long as possible. So that is still certainly a possibility because the God choice is still there. However, a different opportunity has opened up for the Sages. And now Jangaru can always turn into that Chernobog and use that Nightmare aggressively. Dame is under some fire.
Highland Ravens shoving forward here with that mid. 3v3. Kana's made the rotation over from the duo lane. Dame forced into that Pele, doesn't yank anybody back, and is in the middle of 2 brawlers here from the Highland Ravens. Kana finds the kill. Coast has used the Nightmare ultimate to get into the action here. Angry charging forward. Home sweet home onto Jangaru. Is going to hit the apparition there from the Morrigan. And able to escape is Jangaru, but DameNWK pays the price.
Yeah, Jangaru played that as perfectly as you can, right? I mean, Dame goes up into the first powwow. Adapting uses that ult offensively, trying to force Jangaru. Jangaru goes into the powwow himself, pull adapting back in, gets the solo kill. It's a good thing Coast came over because that could have been a little bit of a worse fight. Snoopy was able to stay in lane, but he actually didn't push the wave under, so didn't have too much time to gain a lead in that duo lane. You know, you never want to 1v1 a Hou-Yi as a Chernobog. I don't think you're going to win those trades too often. So smart by Coast to just, hey, clear the wave and then immediately ult over. Use that influence whenever possible. And now we're seeing a little bit of an XP lead in solo lane in particular because Kana got a kill. Sitting level 9 over delny's level 8.
8-7 is the ADC experience as well. You see Coast getting a slight, and I mean slight, level lead on Snoopy. Calvin working their way into the enemy purple buff here, shoving off of Snoopy as Coast steals away that neutral Harpy as well. Dame makes the rotation over with Privative just to make sure that Snoopy can pick up that purple buff for themselves. Adapting works their way into the Sages jungle here, takes away a back Harpy camp. Small ones are down though, so no more stealing for you Adapting. Swiper no swiping there. As the purple buff is taken on this left side by the Highland Ravens duo.
It would have made more sense if it was Dame, because Dame's actually like kind of a fox. In a sense. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry I had to blow up your spot like that, but we're seeing a little bit of a 1v1
so right.
as Dame tricks her spirits in. Adapting should be able to make it out of this one. Doesn't quite have the damage to finish that.
But here's Privative. That shield wall's not going to pick up Adapting. Does force out the Volcanic Lightning, though. Dame's here with the Pele on Calvin and Angry. Over the top comes delnyy with the Eagles Rally. The bludgeon slams down on nobody. Calvin able to double jump away there. Angry utilizes the home sweet home.
I just said you should 1v1! What do you mean? How does Coast take that fight and win?
I know you can't see it, but I just looked over at Trelly like, ha, your words are meaningless.
I mean, you know, maybe I just, I don't know. I mean, you got to play that extremely well. VaporishCoast able to find the solo kill there. A little bit of revenge from last game up against the Cupid, and arguably a worse matchup, I would say. I mean, you just have such a good fight potential with the Hou-Yi, but I'm guessing a Ricochet missed, and after that, just cleaner auto attack. So Coast going to get a massive lead. Now 2 levels ahead in that duo lane as Kana goes over, tries to invade that blue buff, gets it successfully, and is now on the retreat because Dame's on his way over.
No Pele available, though, so not too much more aggression available for these Athenian Sages on the red side of the map. Calvin has worked their way deep into this left side jungle here, stealing away some of those offerings, trying to get a Trebuchet online for themselves. And VaporishCoast, we got that 1v1 on replay for you here. That's coming up in just a second. Here we go as Coast up downs onto Snoopy and just explodes.
Okay, so Snoopy probably jumped, didn't realize how close Coast was, and Psalm's like, oh, I'm just going to zoom on out of here, pre-beats the stun. Nope, that's way too much damage coming out of this Chernobog. So great damage check for VaporishCoast, knowing exactly how much he was able to do there and get a clean solo kill as well as the beat. So 85 seconds now for Snoopy to play safe in case some aggression could come through from Adapting. Given the fact that he's on his speed buff, probably going to be sitting fine in lane for a little bit longer.
Pretty much dead even here as 10 minutes ticks the clock across the clock.
I was going to say, what are you going for? Like, you looked at me like, can you help me? What am I trying to say?
Pick me up.
I was like, I'm sorry.
As 10 minutes ticks across the clock there, Pyromancer spawns on the map, drops down there. I was just saying it was even, Trelly.
No, I understand. Yeah, they have finally evened up the kills, and it actually looks like the Highland Ravens are pretty close to evening up that goal lead. At this point, it's really just a 300 or so. And now XP is what you have to look at, right? Because there still are some level leads throughout for the Highland Ravens. While it still is actually adapting, who's going to pull this gold for. This is a great call. Priv is the only one who's even in earshot. They might burn it down before Priv. They already gave up. They're like, go for Pyro. Go for Pyro. I hear the house. I hear the house. It's walking. Just pull Pyromancer right now.
Khan is here. No boulder available for this Hercules, though, so it's going to be an Earthbreaker or a Driving Strike that try to steal this one away. And Kana calls it off there. The Highland Ravens saying, we already got the Gold Fury. We got what we were going for here. Snoopy under pressure, adapting, blink in, but going for the kill onto Coast, holding that dive bomb, knowing that Coast is going to be in the air longer than the Hoi. He slams back down, adapting, finds the kill. Calvin now being assaulted on this right side. Pyromancer pick up immediately into a kill of the support for the Highland Ravens.
Okay, so it seemed like the Ravens waved off Connor. Like, just give up Pyro. We're giving that one up. It's fine. We'll go gank Snoopy.
Yeah.
And then Connor's like, nah, or Calvin's like, nah, I got to. I have to go for the steal. I'm sorry. I must. I just really want to die for this. So, I don't know. That just seemed like a useless play, but I guess the gold would have been massive. And it would have been a great mental victory just to be like, okay, the Sages saw us at gold, gave up, said we'll get the Pyromancer as our little contingent prize.
Right.
They also lose Snoopy in the process. Then they even wouldn't get the Pyromancer. I understand where the head's at, but that just seemed like a play that Calvin didn't have to make. Either way, still going to be sitting just fine in this matchup. And finally, the Highland Ravens are able to climb ahead gold-wise, not by much. And it probably will tick over as I'm speaking these words. It is not a crazy gold lead in the slightest. And still, the only real thing we're looking at here is those XP leads. VaporishCoast able to pick up a second relic before Snoopy. That could be pretty massive if any pressure is put over towards that duo lane.
And don't expect what just happened to happen again, right? Where the Gold Fury goes down for free, and then the Fire, excuse me, not the Fire Giant, the Pyromancer goes down for free with no contest. The Highland Ravens and the Athenian Sages don't want to trade these neutral objectives all day long. They want to take a big team fight, and they want to grab a Tier 1 tower if possible. Once again, Snoopy under pressure, not from adapting this time, just Calvin as Defender of Olympus is channeled from Privative onto Snoopy just to dissuade the Highland Ravens duo lane from pushing any further. Angry, about to take these middle lane camps here with adapting, build their lead slightly ever more here as we tick on over to 13 minutes.
Yeah, I think a smart call to put some presence over onto Snoopy before Aegis gets grabbed, but Snoopy's been around the block for a while. He knows not to beats the knockup. He knows the Whirlwind of Range of Steel is what you're holding those beats for, and unless some more presence came through, didn't really have to use anything. And of course, with the Defender of Olympus coming through, Priv had the meditation locked and loaded just in case. Would have been able to save Snoopy either way. So a failed gank attempt, but really didn't use too much in the process. And now we're essentially just waiting before someone groups in. And Ghost is just laughing in that lane. When you get a solo kill, you can do that. You know,
good.
in game number 1, if Snoopy was taunting, I would have accepted it. And in this game, I'm going to accept it as well. Ghost is saying, hey, step up. You want to try to fight me? Clear this wave. Snoopy's like, no, man, I don't have to. I don't have my second relic. We're even, like, levels-wise, give or take a bit. I'm not going to give you any more pressure in this lane.
I appreciate the game plan adaptation here from the Highland Ravens. You saw last game, most of their pressure was in the solo lane or in the middle lane, around the jungle, around that middle lane in the 3v3. Snoopy got off to a great start on the Cupid, finding a couple solo kills, transition that into the mid game. The Highland Ravens say, okay, if Snoopy's the threat, then we're going to target down Snoopy. Clearly that has worked thus far. 1-3-1, possessing the most deaths on the Athenian Sages is the ADC. So a bit of a change of pace here for the Highland Ravens, paying off so far.
Yeah, and I did expect to see Dame get a little bit more active in the early. Was able to get 2 kills, but now you're in a position where Dame doesn't want to be the first one to go in, right? All of the beats are available. Someone else has to grab these relics, or else Dame is just, being a setup bot. That's fine if you can grab something like this, and it looks like Calvin wasted the ult, could be in trouble.
Whirlwind of Rage and Steel utilized on just the Athena, but a whiff, as you said, from Dame. The Pele finds absolutely nothing for it. No value there from Dame, but luckily Jangaru can also become dodgy, so still Palo available to the Athenian Sages just on the mid laner.
Yeah, and this is the call, right? If Dame is consistently going in and pulling beats, Jangaru can always be that follow-up. It's just the case of, hey, after we beads, are we going to put ourselves in some danger? Of course, Calvin never had beads to begin with, but Whirlwind of Rage of Steel was the only CC immunity that they had access to, and it was used. Priv was able to dash out of that ultimate, so it was essentially wasted, but 2 very nimble jumps, very nimble leaps there for Calvin, made sure to juke out all of the chains. And now we're in a stalemate situation. Angry, forced into the ult, and Jangaru's just going to try and grab some relics.
Home sweet home raining down on the Athenian Sages. Jangaru is forced out of this fight, forcing the Aegis as well. Boulder comes through and deals most of the health of Jangaru. Adapting puts the finishes touches on that kill. Kana comes through, takes out the Athena, a 2-for-0 swing in favor of the Highland Ravens. Tier 1 tower from the Athenian Sages to fall quickly as well. Looks like the call is not push this tier 2, but instead retreat to this quickly respawning Oni Fury.
Yeah, what a great time to grab 2 kills right as Oni Fury spawning in, and Kana still playing zone duty. Snoopy is going to try and step up here, but once gets the mean end of a driving strike, I imagine no contention will be put. Actually goes the long way, so wasn't even spotted out by Kana, but I think this is burning too quickly even for a Ho-Yi to get in range.
Adapting's on that left-hand side, shoving forward. Didn't quite manage to grab that tier 1 tower as the Oni Fury goes down to the Highland Ravens, so it almost felt like 2 tier 1s and the Gold Fury go into the way of the Ravens. Not quite, though, as Snoopy nope, there it goes, baby. 2 tier 1 towers. Adapting knew exactly how much damage to exert, right?
I can't believe you even doubted
Calculated.
him. Yeah, I know. I bet you he pulled out a calculator real quick, said, okay, each archer is going to do 18 damage. All right, we're good.
We're talking about adapting. He didn't need a calculator. It was a spreadsheet that he already had pre-made that he had in his brain.
You're right. He had a photographic memory of exactly how much damage, and now the Pyromancer is being pulled. It's up to delnyy to go for the steal. Disarm a little bit late.
Not quite there is delnyy. Eagles Rally was available as well, but using that to jump into 5 members of the Highland Ravens would be a gutsy call there from delnyy. The Whiplash not quite on target. So, 2 tier 1 towers.
Right.
There we go. We got that, Trelly. Gold Fury, Pyromancer.
Oh, yeah.
Where do we go from here if you're the Athenian Sages?
Well, you know me. I like to look at the ADC's build and decide, do you have enough damage to go for an objective like Fire Giant? Looking at a level 16 Chernobog, a level 15 mid laner in the Baba Yaga, maybe you just go for some aggression in the mid and grab Priv's Magi's Bubble. That's probably where you'd go. If I'm the Ravens, that's what I'm doing, and that's exactly what happened. Either way, I don't think there's any chance they're grouping up for a Fire Giant, so a tier 2 tower and left seems to be what the Ravens are looking for. Snoopy's not here. They're not going to find him, but the rest of the Sages are grouped up at this red buff.
You might as well strip away some of these offerings from the Athenian Sages while you got the time. Kana pushing forward, looking to see if this buff in the back here is just, there for the taking. Why not? Jangaru, luckily that's just a clone, though. No worries there from the Morrigan, as it's just a reset here from both the Ravens and the Sages. The Sages definitely need to get their farm game on, as the mid lane oracles there, the mid area oracles, I should say, are going to go down to the Highland Ravens, providing some vision there on the Gold Fury. And there's only one right side tier 1 tower remaining here. The Highland Ravens probably rotating over to that right side sooner rather than later to bust that one down.
Yeah, I think both of these teams are doing exactly what they're supposed to, right? The Ravens are supposed to push this lead, try and get aggressive, try to get a pick so they could set up an opportunity for Fire Giant. And the Sages are like, they're baiting us. There's absolutely nothing to fight over. Unless they're at our tier 2, we have no reason to step out and get aggressive in a situation like this. The lead isn't so egregious that we can't fight, but why would we unless it's Fire Giant doing half of one of their tank's HP, something like that. By the way, Kana's used one boulder, offensively. The rest have just been on. I understand waves, but those were back camps, man. What did they do to you that you had to just throw the baseball at them and hit the grand slam? Either way, you're just going to be holding that trebuchet there and right, trying to group up before that last tier 1, I should say, in right lane finally is able to go down.
So many members of the Sages are able to pop, right? We've seen Dame have insane games. delnyy newer to the squad. Same thing with Dame. But Jangaru and Snoopy are typically the 2 players that you see the Sages play through. They love playing through that mid and that ADC. So far, quiet here from Snoopy, 1-3-1. That's not his fault. He's been targeted out a lot, but just 1-1-2 here from Jangaru. Haven't seen too many game-changing ultimates or real huge damage. We know the Morrigan has the ability to delete people off the map. Are you looking at Jangaru moving forward as a bright spot for the Athenian Sages?
Yeah, I think the Sages are playing this slowly, waiting for a situation like this. A massive stun, but angry instantly on the home sweet home.
Powwow is up, but who are you going to grab if you are Jangaru? The answer is nobody. Coast in the backline, slamming away at delnyy. But here comes Snoopy, sending those suns crashing down on the Highland Ravens. Coast forced to Aegis. Snoopy forced to dive bomb back under tower. Calvin and Kana are here frontlining, but in the backline is adapting, wreaking havoc.
Adapting just does so much damage in the backline there, and Coast is able to grab as well. Angry's going deep here. I was going to say Priv could be in some trouble as Snoopy is trying to line up any sort of bounce, but I don't think this tier 2 tower is much longer as the trebuchet just is continuing to launch these shots. And let me just start, because that's a 2-for-3 trade. It could have been worse. The Highland Ravens were aggressed upon, though. Jangaru, unfortunately, did not channel that stun before going stealth, so Angry had the sound cue, was able to pop Home Sweet Home and shut down that engage from the start. And if Adapting wasn't tanking that tower, I think that's a full deicide. Like, he was doing so much damage. The AoE was so effective, and a Fire Giant could have certainly been on the table. But it's just going to be a couple kills for both these teams, 3 for the Ravens and 2 for the Sages. And now I'm assuming a setup for the Gold Fury. Could have been a lot worse, but still, we're seeing that the Sages have that fight back in them. Double Powwow still is able to create a lot of doors opening for them. Dame sitting 4-3 after that fight. And again, if Jangaru channeled the 1 before going into stealth there, that could have been a completely different fight.
That was just textbook jungle play there from Adapting. I keep seeing it over and over in my mind. Adapting, wrapping her all the way around the tower, coming in with that Volcanic Lightning, and just
hitting like 3.
Yeah, hitting 3 and the auto attacks, the AoE auto slamming home as well. Just textbook there from Adapting. Finds themselves 4-4-5 here on this Pele so far. Looked fantastic on the Thanatos come 30 minutes, and already looking great on this Pele just 20, not even 22 minutes into this contest here. 10-7. If we're looking at gold here, a 5,000 gold lead for the Highland Ravens. 20 minutes in, still relevant.
Yeah, still relevant, no doubt. As Snoopy actually sitting around trying to grab the beads off Angry and Will, but gets way more damage. Return. Snoopy's in some trouble here, but heard the transformation, and now Angry's in the house.
Holy smokes, Jangaru up into the powwow here. Coast comes out of the wall, is slammed down on. Privative finds the final shot onto the ADC. That's a great pickup early on, but so much expended from the Sages just to find one member of the Highland Ravens here. Luckily, the Ravens don't decide to push the issue, so the Sages grab their kill happily and back off.
Yeah, I was going to say, Snoopy extremely weak here while Adapting was going for the wraparound. Definitely a smart call just to say, hey, we got some low health bars. We would love that Gold Fury, but let's back up and make sure that we're healthy before we go for a pull like that. I'm seeing the posturing here of the Highland Ravens. It's not to defend that Gold Fury. They are heading over to the Pyromancer. They don't have their ADC. No way they're going for a Fire Giant pull at this point in the game. So just grab that Pyromancer, trade a little bit of that gold. Not going to be the biggest deal, but once again, we're showing that the Sages still have that fight in them. Only down about 4K, give or take, a little bit less than that. If they're able to continue fights in little picks like these, that gold's going to keep shrinking.
The Sages not even close to out of this one. I mean, said it multiple times by now. I'm going to keep saying it. This is the one set that I look at and I say, I think this one's going 3. Snoopy's been around forever, has led the squad to a lot of success in the SCC. The Athenian Sages have always fought hard, even if the standings don't necessarily reflect their success. They've always been right there in it, put up a great fight yesterday as well, and we just see the Athenian Sages take a great team fight, a good pick there on Coast in order to put them right back in this one. Fire Giant is on the map. No wards out from either of these teams. Need a bit of vision.
Yeah, they are going to be getting a little bit, the Sages that is, on this objective as a front line in delnyy, Snoopy, and Priv trying to find a taunt into any sort of stun, any sort of relic being dropped could be the opening that the Sages are looking for. But something to highlight, there's a few members that would love to take over to 20 before this fight happens. Of course, the carries of the Ravens, they already hit 20. They're sitting just fine. Xxnnahh is going to have to expend those beads there while ticks over to 20 as well. But the Sages haven't quite hit that point. Coast doing what Coast does best. Split push while Adapting goes mid. You're either pulling Fire Giant right now or you're losing a lot.
The Athenian Sages are bleeding structures, and they're doing exactly what you just said, Trelly. They're pulling Fire Giant, burning it down to half HP while delny's playing frontliner here. Suns, okay, so the Sages are committing to this Fire Giant. Sunbreakers raining down on this Fire Giant. Here comes Dame on the powwow, pulling in multiple members, 2 members to be exact, of the Highland Ravens. The Sages grab the Fire Giant, but here comes Adapting. Finding one, Xxnnahh finds a second. Coast over the top of that Nightmare on a Privative, able to put the support in the ground, and only 2 members remaining from the Athenian Sages to play with that Fire Giant.
Yeah, delnyy has to use the beads there just in case the chase comes through. You're losing your left side Phoenix. You got Fire Giant on 2. But the Sages, I mean, they're looking a little bit worse for wear here. The Ravens did not go back after that fight. They are pushing down mid lane. They want more than just that left side Phoenix. With Damon left, the mid bird's definitely gone. You're starting to look at your Titan.
Yeah, left side bird gone. Middle lane bird about to be evaporated as well. Only 2 members for the next 15 seconds of the Sages here to defend. The Highland Ravens pushing for an anti-here. A 25-minute 2-0 might be incoming as delnyy and Dame have to put up the defense of their tournament lives. In goes Dame. No powwow is not killed
Not a lot of
just
damage
yet. delnyy is able to tank up 5 members of the Highland Ravens. Here comes Privative. Here comes Snoopy. Dame returning as well. delnyy loses their life, but by so much time for the Sages to put up a fantastic base defense.
Jangaru does have ultimate here shortly. If they could turn into the Chernobog, slow the rest of the Ravens, they might have an opportunity to run this one down. They're still chasing, but I think it's a little bit too much to ask for. Just the two Phoenixes in mid and left will be going down. Unless Dame can catch some lazy backs here, I think that's going to be all the fighting we see. So this all started from some great splishing from the Ravens. A split pushing from the Ravens. They're able to grab, splishing. They're able to grab that left side bird. Adapting's pushing up mid, and they say, hey, this Fire Giant's not burning too quickly. Let's rotate over there as well. Adapting comes in. Coast flies in as well, but Fire Giant goes down. So, of course, the Ravens don't get Fire Giant, but they're feeling pretty confident. They go for that Phoenix in mid, but not very quickly going down either. We saw Khepri take a ton of damage, a beautiful base defense. I think delnyy baited everyone far away from the Titan room until the whole team was able to spawn back in. And now we're in a situation where Fire Giant runs off in about 2 minutes, but it's only on Dame. I don't think the Sages are in a group up and run it down left situation. They should be able to clear the waves out and get themselves back in a better position. But given the situation, I mean, the Ravens, they've got the gold lead, they've got the map state, and now they just have to be clinical about where they put their pressure next.
If the Sages fight back and find a game number 3 here versus the Highland Ravens, I mean, you're giving the you're cutting the MVP trophy in two, and you're giving it to Dame, you're giving it to delnyy for that incredible defense. I want to highlight what you just said there. delny's pathing, right? They loop around the gone Phoenix, the Phoenix that had been evaporated. They loop around, they pull the entirety of the Ravens with their body, essentially, into the middle lane, buy enough time for the rest of the Sages to respawn. This tier 2 tower on the right-hand side going down. So now only one structure remaining for the Athenian Sages, that Phoenix on the right-hand side, minus their Titan, of course, the grand structure of this battleground of the gods. And, I mean, what are you thinking? If you're the Sages, you got to take that fight under the Phoenix, right? You're not fighting at any other objective.
You got some time to get your birds back up because you still have Fire Giant in hand, right? You have it for about 47 more seconds. You're fine just sitting back and waiting. The question really is, will the Sages try and form some form of offense beforehand? I mean, Dame and Jangaru are running up left, and Adapting is onto this. Khepri and Adapting have the wraparound, and it's not going to be easy to get away from this.
Oh, this might not be good for the Sages. Aegising out most of the damage from Adapting. Jangaru able to get up into that Palau, down from the Palau as well. Calvin and Angry are moving forward on Jangaru, but Jangaru able to escape with just a sliver of HP. Dame does pay for the mid laner's discretions there. Angry surging forward here with the home sweet home. A great dishwasher pulls in Privative, a double taunt, buys some time for the dash to go off, and the Sages only lose Dame, but it is for 40 seconds.
Yeah, it looks like the Highland Ravens recognized that they weren't going for any Titan Sieges after that pick, and they are just going to grab this Primal Fury and back up. It's almost EFG time at this point, so you might as well bide your time, try and get as many power spikes as you can. But looking at that timer, if the Fire Giant is pulled right away, it's not going to be enhanced. If the Sages form some form of defense, it could be waiting just a little bit longer. And then you're in a situation where there's plenty of damage online for both of these teams. If it's a true 5v5 team fight with even map state, I mean, it's going to be the positioning game. Are you going to let Adapting go for this massive wraparound where you had no idea he was there and Volcanic Lightning's just chaining onto 4? You know, are you letting the double Palaus come through and grab 2 members? It's anyone's game. It really just depends on how long the Sages can stall. There are still fire minion waves in mid, and they don't have any sort of vision on this objective.
Well, if you're the Athenian Sages, you're at least feeling good about the fact that your 2 birds are back online, right? So those fire minions are no longer spawning, charging down the middle and the left lane. As you mentioned, fire minions are currently heading down the mid lane, so it could pose a threat in this coming enhanced Fire Giant fight. It's only 29-20, though, and here comes the FG. So we still have 40 more seconds before the EFG kicks off. The Athenian Sages definitely looking to put up a big-time defense of the Fire Giant here. Khepri playing frontliner, same thing with Calvin looking to pull in Privative with that dishwasher, but how much damage can you really do to that frontline Athena? delnyy going in deep with the Eagles Rally bludgeon onto Coast. Here comes Defender of Olympus, ages out Dame finding Khepri.
Dame does get the pull, and now looks like an all-out brawl here. Home sweet home, dishing out as much damage as possible, and Coast is able to pick up another.
delnyy going down to Coast for the double kill as well. Calvin dropping low. Coast finally put in the ground by the rival ADC and Snoopy. Calvin finds the grayscale. It is up to Adapting. One more shot at a Dame, finds the double kill. Adapting goes in the ground. Only Angry here big time turnaround for the Sages.
Yeah, but Angry has enough damage that the second Dame dashes in, should be able to find a kill, unless that misses. Now, Angry could be in some trouble. A potion in the dash. Never mind, it's just the dash. I am so wrong about how much damage Angry's dishing out. That means Fire Giant's not going down.
Oh, Dame totally didn't. I mean, just complete miscalculation there.
I thought it was potion and then the blast off, but it
So
was
did
just
Dame.
the blast off.
So did
Clearly,
Dame.
that damage was clearly too much, and Angry's not scared at all. Angry's still getting aggressive here.
Absolutely not. Privative has a quarter HP, and we just saw Angry annihilate the jungler, but here comes Snoopy dishing out just as much damage. Mark of the Golden Crow providing a little bit extra as well. Over the top comes the potion.
Oh,
Snoopy
no.
under half HP. There's no shot that Angry finds more kills, but over the top, home sweet home. One more shot out of Angry on a Privative is going to do it. Angry is 1v5ing the Athenian Sages and winning.
And it looks like
Oh,
Kana
come
makes
on.
the rotation in. Grand slam, and you're out of here. Snoopy, go back to base. I really thought that was a situation, a 1v3 where, I mean, the Sages probably grab fire, but unfortunately Angry puts on a clinic with the Baba Yaga. That's the first 2 kills of the game. I mean, just the first one, I guess. Kana gets the other, but that's a crime, and there's 13 assists on that mid laner. You'd wish that there's much more, but now the EFG will finally be going down, and no one from the Sages are going to be coming over. And now it's all Highland Ravens. You got to stall for 30 seconds before your duo lane gets back up. That means that right side bird is definitely forfeit. You're in defend the Titan territory now.
Baba Yaga lapping every other player on the map, putting up nearly 10,000 more damage than the next highest, which is Snoopy on this whole 28k for the Baba Yaga, and like 10,000 of it came from that 3v1 in the middle lane. Right side Phoenix is going to drop. The middle lane Phoenix and the left side Phoenix are both weakened, so remember that when those sieges inevitably pop off. The Ravens, 5-man deep, 5 enhanced Fire Giants, go back to finish off their builds.
Yep, time to go. I mean, their builds should basically be finished off. You're upgrading relics, you're getting elixirs of power, you're in the situation where it's time, it's end game time now. You better be looking at that left side Phoenix and then saying, we're going for it all. However, you got to put some respect on the Sage's damage. And guess what? They're not sitting in the base waiting. They are setting up an ambush wherever possible. They're grouped up at this red buff. Let's see if the Highland Ravens are onto them.
You can't forget Jangaru
Oh,
on this
Kosher
Morrigan.
ults. Found them all.
Oh, what a great use of the ultimate there to spot out the entirety of the Athenian Sages who were baiting around that Gold Fury pit. Calvin was almost caught in a bad spot, or Kana was almost caught in a bad spot. Either one could have been the target here for the Athenian Sages, but Coast, that's SMITE IQ coming out. You know, you pop that ultimate, you see where everyone is. Oh, make sure you don't walk forward, frontliners, or you might find the grayscale here. Calvin shoving forward with the remainder of the Highland Ravens, grouping up around this left-hand side. What do you think? Probably grab the left side Phoenix, middle lane Phoenix, and look for that Titan push?
I think you split up at this point. Adapting should be able to push with Khan in mid lane. You're not letting Adapting by themselves, because Jangaru and Dame win that 2v1, I think, more often than not. But it looks like it is a 4-1 split where Adapting's not pushing up too far. He's just trying to grab some bodies from the Ravens to just push over someone from the Sages to go and take that bait.
Oh,
but
man.
it looks like you're in a 4v3 situation, and Angry's doing this much damage. The Suns get dropped. That's an ult wasted.
Yeah, good use of there, though, just to clear the wave to make sure that the Highland Ravens don't have any extra potential here. Privative goes in with the taunt, and Calvin is just completely immune to damage at this point. Snoopy gets Defender of Olympus channeled on the Hoi just to add some little extra protections in case the Highland Ravens were going in there, but this is going to be a free left side Phoenix with Coast swinging away.
Yeah, and Adapting still hasn't made his presence known in this fight. Has been just sitting around mid lane, waiting to get aggressive. At this point, the Sages know what they have to do. They're defending this Titan at all costs, maybe doing a weak defense towards this mid Phoenix, but if Angry ults onto that Titan, it's not going to be living very long.
Oh, delnyy pulled in, but Eagles rallied and gets blown up by the Baba Yaga. Calvin in with that whirlwind, pulls back delnyy. One more shot's going to end the solo laner's life, but Dame picks up a kill as well on the ever-important ADC for the Highland Ravens. Angry pushed out in that home sweet home, does find a return kill onto Dame. Snoopy, importantly, still full HP. Jangaru forced out of the fight, but retains their life. Calvin surging forward, Kana by their side, looking for the ADC for the Athenian Sages. Angry finds the shot onto Snoopy and a double kill. Titan going down to the Fire Minions, chunking away at this Titan. Highland Ravens pushing into the throne room. Adapting finds Privative. Jangaru finds Adapting, finds a double onto Calvin, and the Titan finally, blessedly falls for the Highland Ravens.
How poetic that the Blast Off was able to thwart the Fire Giant attempt from the Sages, and the Blast Off is able to kill the Titan there. Angry going massive on that Baba Yaga, just doing so much damage. And I think superior team play throughout. The Sages played a really solid comeback game there. I thought once they got that lead, it was going to be hard to stop. And even through a 10,000 gold deficit, the Sages consistently were able to find some picks here and there, some solid team fights. But I mean, that one play where adapting rotated around the tower and hit the massive ult. At that point, I was like, oh, you guys are this clean. Okay, so this is how locked in you are. You're determined to not go home today.
The Highland Ravens against the Oni Warriors, fighting hard, but find that 0-2 loss. But here, against their opponent, I mean, taking it to them. The Athenian Sages in game number 2, a convincing victory from the Highland Ravens, and the 2-0s throughout this summer Masters.
It continues.
It continues.
Yeah, I guess so, because that's what you called. You said this one could, and I think that was a crazy competitive game, but still not going to quite go the distance.
Yeah, Dolson and Myth, I'd love it if you broke it down for us. Take it away, boys.
Happy to do so, and I'll start off by breaking it down by giving Myth every ounce of due credit, because Myth, you said this one's going to be a 2-0, one way or another, because adapting is on the other team.
I didn't say adapting.
What'd you say, Myth?
No, you know what I said.
I don't.
I want you to say it. Say his name and title.
Adapting.
King Kenneth.
Both of us are right, Myth. Both of us are right.
One of us is more right.
I'm right because it's the one that's on the screen. And adapting helps his team find the 2-0 win here. This might be the hardest fought set we've had so far here this weekend, Myth. Another 2-0. But this one has the length, the overall game time of a 3-game set, it feels like. You get 2 games. Game 1's pushing over 40 minutes. Game 2's getting up there as well. Athenian Sages put up a masterclass in back-and-forth styles of games. This one a bit different in how we got there. The early game wasn't quite as dominated by one team or the other. Really came down to those late-game Fire Giant objective base-type calls.
Yeah, individual fightbacks from the Athenian Sages, but the Highland Ravens in game 1, I had said, you know what? The Sages are just better at fighting, and the Ravens are better at literally everything else. This time around, the Ravens were better.
Yeah.
End statement. The fights were going their way. Objectives were going their way. Zoning was incredibly clean. I really liked every single thing we saw from Angry. His performance was incredibly admirable. Calvin was getting active on the map, making sure that nobody was allowed into that back line, creating space for VaporishCoast. Xngnnah was doing Hercules things and making it look good like it's 2015 all over again. This squad, I think they could do it, man. They really are. Clean in the macro, clean in the micro, and when you got both of those down, what more could you ask for?
It is a very impressive team, and you can tell in the player cams as well. It's those intangibles, the stuff we're not seeing on the actual battleground in-game, out-of-game. You see not only the relief, but just the excitement from these guys. You're able to close out such a competitive set in 2-0 fashion, move yourself on to the next round of SMITE Summer Masters. And so it's relief, excitement, but also some confidence showing, in my opinion, on a lot of those player cams. So I think the Ravens are a team got to keep your eyes on moving forward here this weekend. Adapting, I mean, this is kind of the Pele back and forth, right? I mean, you get a lot of kills, a lot of assists, but you also die a lot. You dive into the back line, you you blow up a target, but
getting your hands
you tend
dirty.
to get blown up on the other end. We can't escape this post-game, though, without talking about Angry here, Myth. 36,000 damage on the Baba Yaga. Scales up so nicely into the late game. We've seen a lot of Baba this weekend.
Only from EU.
Games like this, though, are why.
It's just that damage output, isn't it? Plus survivability. How often was Angry getting dove on by Dame with the Trickster Spirit, and he says, I'm going to hop into my house, and you're going to get away from me, or I'm going to kill you.
Right.
And often Dame didn't get away from him, so he killed him.
Yeah, right. And there are a lot of Cauldron plays, too. One of the highlight plays of that entire game is Angry effectively 3v1 around the Fire Giant. And I thought that was when the Sages were going to just get back into the game. They had the numbers left on the map. Even if you don't get the Fire Giant, you're likely pushing down some objective somewhere. But Angry is just able to stabilize, and such an impressive team performance here from the Highland Ravens. The Highland Ravens able to take this set 2-0, and as such, Highland Ravens standing by for the post-game interview.
Yeah, that's right, Dave. Trelly here with the duo lane of the Highland Ravens. We got Calvin and VaporishCoast. Coast, I'm going to start with you. Not the best laning phase in game number 1, but you were able to bring it back. I believe right on the cast as I said that you shouldn't be fighting a Hou-Yi 1v1 as Chernobog. You were able to solo Snoopy. How was the mental like after coming back from game 1?
I mean, I'll get solo as many times as I need to if it means we win. Like, I really don't care. Like, I know I'm better than that, guys. And no, it sounds bad. I don't know how I got soloed by him. I played so bad. But I'm late game Bog. The Ghost is like the best god in the game by a mile. So like I'm confident, you know, and they just I don't know. I'm always mentally in. On game day, you can't break me. So.
All right, there you go.
Totally agree.
A rock solid mental. Calvin, I'll come to you, and I'm going to ask you about the 1v3 there with Angry, because that was a situation where I was pretty sure EFG was going down, but instead everyone just sort of ran in. In your words, what was going on in the comms during that when Angry's just 1v3?
Well, like when we saw like they were like 1 HP somehow, and like I don't know, like we said to Angry like you can stay, like you should be like not scared because like they were 1 HP and like I don't know, like they just like committed like 1 by 1 into him, and we were like we say to Angry like don't be scared, you can beat them, like don't be scared, you know, and it just like they went in and they get killed 1 by 1. Like I don't know what they done. It was really bad, I guess.
I definitely expected a dog pile 3v1, but they sort of just all filtered in and gave him the kill. Coast, last question here, and I have to bring it up because Mifflin's in the room. Is it still, you know, the highlight of your career getting that pentakill on him, or have you done better things ever since then?
No, I think that's the like first good moment, and you know.
It's just all uphill from there,
Yeah,
right?
it's been all uphill from there. You know, I ended his career, but he started a new one. He's doing good for himself, so I'm happy for him.
All right. Thank you guys so much for the interview. We'll throw it back to them so maybe Miff can defend his name.
Thank you very much.
Lots of tea coming out there in the post game. Mifflin.
I won that set and Worlds that year. All right, he didn't end my career. Wow, he did that when he benched me. Okay, that's how that went down.
Fair enough, Miff. Look, I am kicked back after an interview like that. Coast always has played like a confident player, right? The words though, I mean that's Snoopy, a storied SPL career. He's now
Both
here
of
playing.
them. They were both going in, dude. He said, and all right, to paraphrase the whole interview, Calvin says, I don't know, they're not good, and they walked in and died. And Coast said, I'm just better than Snoopy. That's all we got from that. And then Trelly tried to blast me. I mean, we gloss over that.
No, Charlie asked the question, and it just happened to be that's how things ended up panning out. If you're right, you won Worlds, so we...
And that said...
I promise from here on out, if I ever talk about Coast pentaing you, I will bring up the fact that it did not end your career and you won Worlds that year.
And that's said.
Is that a deal?
Yeah, that's fine.
Fair play. Take that. Okay, that is one more team gets eliminated here this weekend, but one more still to be eliminated from this group. Tomorrow, we will have our SPL matchup here in this group. The J Dragons up against the Oni Warriors. They both won their first best of 3 of the weekend against the Sages and the Ravens, respectively. They now will play against one another tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow's matchups are promotion matchups. Today, all elimination. Tomorrow, promotion matchups. And then the loser of the Oni Warriors J Dragons will go on to play a very confident Highland Ravens in a split promotion and also elimination matchup. So this group ignites a little bit here, Miff. When one of the SEC teams, ideally both, but in this case the Highland Ravens, really starting to feel themselves a bit. Really good luck. One more set remaining here today. Chulainn Wardens versus Aru Scorpions. Will we get the elusive 3-game set here to end our day?
Well, if we're going to get it anywhere, it's got to be here,
Well, of
right?
course. I'm asking if you think we could, though.
Man, Scorpions have been on a really good Cinderella story recently, jumping up through the seeding. They've been looking much improved. Chulainn Wardens, of course, one of the teams with some of the most storied names in the North American SEC. I don't know, man. Maybe it's my American biases rearing their head, but I can't imagine a world where Europe's winning out 75%, right? I gotta go with the Wardens. And you know what? I'll say it in 2.
Okay. Well, look, we got the number 1 seed from both North America and EU qualified from the SEC qualified through in the first couple of matchups. Now the number 2 seed from EU qualifies in with the Highland Ravens, and so the Aru Scorpions will be going up against the Chulainn Wardens in our next matchup. And a lot of exciting things to look forward to in that one as well. Will we get a 3-game set for the first time this SMITE Summer Masters? Stick around. Next set right after this.